Okay, I'd like to call today's Special Finance Committee meeting to order. It is 5:35, Monday, October 20th, 2025. Notice that all 5 members are here. We have a quorum. Under business, A, convene into closed session per statute 19.85 to consider employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercise responsibility.
I'll make that motion.
A motion by Davis to go into closed session.
Second.
Second by Berg. Okay, Davis,
Aye.
Berg,
Aye.
Smith.
Aye.
Vote yes. Lampy. Okay. It's 5:35. We'll go into closed session. Back in open session. Okay, I'll then go to item to C, convene a closed session per statute 19.85 to consider employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, motion by Davis. Second by Smith. Okay, Davis, Berg,
Aye.
Smith. Aye. Mr. Lampy.
Aye.
Okay, it is 5:47. Okay. We'll then move on for an open session. We'll go to E, 2026 budget proposal discussion. Capital purchases, Fund 5. I will now, based on the budget, I will recuse myself and appoint Ms. Davis as chair.
Alrighty, then we're doing letter E, 2026 budget proposal discussion, capital purchases, Fund 5. And so we've got a lot to accomplish tonight, and we're already at 7 o'clock. So let's move on to Fund 5. And based on our discussions prior, I think it might be wise for us to consider the amount of money that we are looking to borrow, because that then will help us in decision-making as to which capital improvement projects to keep in Fund 5 and which need to be eliminated from Fund 5. So hopefully you've already taken some time to consider that. Mr. Stevens gave us a whole bunch of helpful documents previously where we could take a look at some what ifs for borrowing for at 4.5, 5, and 5.5. So I'll bring it to that then. So I don't mind starting off the discussion. I think we might be wise just to go around and everyone weigh in as to your borrowing comfort level. My borrowing comfort level is at 4.5, and let me explain why. We have a budget summary. I don't know if you've all seen it. It's at the beginning of the online documents, but I do have it printed out here. Do you have that, Mr. Lampy, at the budget summary where it says how much is general levy? Okay. So if you look at the general levy amount for 2026, it's about 10,800, I'm sorry, 10,860,000. And in 2025, it was 10,460,000. So it's an increase of about 3.8%, about $400,000. But if you look over at the debt levy, for 2025, it was 5,300,000. And the 2025 debt levy is 6,100,000 for an increase of actually about 15%. So here's my thought process on why I would like to stay in the 4.5 range. You'll notice if you look back over the last years, we have not been increasing the general levy, Fund 1 levy, very much. But we'll notice that the debt levy has started to increase beginning with 2024. And then, of course, as Mr. Stevens pointed out, it was understandably and expected that 2026 would see an increase for the debt levy. Because we have hopefully fine-tuned the budget process to a certain degree when it comes to salaries, we can expect that we won't be that we will be spending more of the fund balance than we have in previous years. In those previous years, we scheduled to spend fund balance and we didn't. This year, we will likely spend around 200,000, but we could expect for next year that we're going to actually cut into that fund balance a little bit. That may mean that we have to increase the general levy and tax people a little for the general levy. But if our debt levy is increasing and our general levy is increasing, then I fear that we're going to get to a point where the levied amount is larger than any of us have a comfort in. And so my fear is that if we go higher than 4.5, then we're going to increase our debt levy at a time where we also maybe next year need to increase the general levy. So that's why I'm saying 4.5. Mr. Burke, what number are you at? I can skip you.
Dana, I appreciate your point you're making. We had earlier discussion on some examples where we were trying to make some adjustments in the general fund on Fund 1. And we initiated, Alderperson Smith and I, on a couple of examples which were over 50,000. And I didn't see the buying into that concept back then. And 50,000, what is the impact on 50,000, Mark Stevens, on the levy? What does 50,000 do to the levy?
About 3.6% instead of 3.7 instead of 3.8.
Well, anyways, I initiated at our last meeting the idea of that shed being taken out because it was not the highest priority, and that was 400,000.
Correct.
All right, now I'm also on board with an alternate idea in the context of getting rid of the shed as far as a new acquisition and a new expense. I've talked with our mayor, and he feels that putting some money in there for electrical to address safety would be wise and smart, and I'm on board with an alternate there of putting 50,000 back in to address what appeared to be a need on the existing shed to make that safe and wise, knowing that we aren't buying into a new shed. There was a 377,000 for a renovation of City Hall. That's again almost 400,000. Those were examples. I'm just trying to point out with you that in reducing that debt levy, you've got to come up with examples, and we've tried to find examples to actually move it down.
Sure. And I have some too, but I think it's a starting point for us to at least gauge just quickly where we are each at. So are you,
I'm not in favor of 4.5 because that takes away the 500,000 that we need to put into streets
okay?
to make that a higher
No,
priority.
it doesn't necessarily have to. I have some examples.
I'm of the view that it does.
Okay, Mr. Smith, previously you said you're about 5. Are you still there?
Yes, qualified. I would like to support a borrowing of $5 million. And I went through the capital budget. And my point was, and what I mentioned Wednesday night before I left, that the additional 500,000, I would support adding to the budget through borrowing exclusively for the purpose of adding resurfacing streets to the budget.
Mhm.
Now, in this capital budget, it may have been changed since I received this one, but we have almost twice as much money planned for reconstruction streets in the 2026 budget as we do for resurfacing streets. As best I can tell, there's 740,000 for reconstruction streets, 444,000 for resurfacing streets. There's increased street infrastructure, 500,000. I don't know what that means or how it's going to be allocated, but I believe the way that we impact the condition collectively of our city streets most favorably is putting the most money possible into resurfacing streets. I don't think that this budget reflects that as a goal. And I believe adding $500,000 to the debt exclusively for the purpose of adding to the resurfacing portion of our capital projects is the way to go. So 5 million, if we put it into the additional money into resurfacing.
All right.
4.5 if we do not.
Mr. Lampy.
I have a similar view to Alder Smith on this one. I'm at a higher level. I'm very comfortable with the 5.5 at the top of the range of our finance director's borrowing sheet, contingent on that streets portion, 5 otherwise.
Okay. Yes.
I know I don't have a vote, but just, so you know, Christine from Park and Rec get those quotes that, and she had mentioned, doing a quick one with some of the contractors in town, 600,000 would provide a building about the size of what's existing now with a wash bay. And then she gave numbers around 190,000 for updating electricity, the heating, redoing garage doors, things like that. So just those numbers were asked last week, Wednesday, I believe. So just letting you know those two numbers that she gave.
But are you sure about that last one?
Was it was it 119, she said?
23.5.
123. I wrote down 119, I probably said 190 by accident. Okay, 119, 500 for a rough fix up the buildings a little bit that are there.
Where the sheet here.
And I believe 600,000 was, she said, for having a wash bay in that, right? Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So
Okay. This,
I'm hearing probably as a midpoint, 5 million should be the number we're shooting towards. Would you all agree that that's probably a good starting point, 5 million?
be a good place
Let's-
to start.
Okay, so then I think one thing that we should take a look at is the request for about $1 million. And I'm just going to put it all under municipal building, $1 million for updates to municipal building. As a side note, Mr. Stevens, is it appropriate that an allocation in a certain amount can be given more generally to say, okay, it doesn't necessarily have to be boiler or north parking lot or additional renovations, but it could be said, take this amount and do what you can with the municipal building renovations.
Yes, for sure.
So that's an approach where we say, okay, this is all we're willing to give to anything having to do with the municipal building renovations. Okay, that's $1 million there. Where are we on that? $1 million towards municipal building renovations. I'll take any input.
I think it's important to get moving on that project. That's one of the pillars that I was hoping to use when we start to enter in conversations with our police force, just like we do the fire department, is that we have a substantial commitment to upgrading the working conditions. We did that with the fire department. I would hope that would be helpful as we start to move into single or maybe even a multi-year contract with the police. So I actually did like the fact that we rapidly turned around and got some numbers on the building. Those were at $1,500,000 or $50,000, which I think was implied by Elderberg a second ago. We probably should get going on that. If we do not decide to do that, I am though interested in understanding what it would take essentially to optimize that exit corridor, that so-called north parking lot, because that does seem to be continually everything that we do seems like that is an option that can be treated separately.
And you do bring up a good point that right now we're at 5.9 in total requests. And if the goal is to get down to 5, we're going to have to find some places to cut. Yes. Okay. So 5.5, thank you. So we're at 5.5 currently with the shed removed. I'm interested in hearing from you, Mr. Smith, on where you are in the municipal building renovations.
Could you just repeat those numbers again? Because I'm working off of a sheet that says that if we borrow 4.5 and you make that if we borrow 5 million, then we are $992,000 over budget. Now, those are the numbers I have. Are you using other numbers?
So I was using the, the budget, Fund 5. And the original request was 5,947,000. And then we voted to remove the 400,000 from the park storage to bring it down to 5,547,000-ish.
Okay,
So we're
then
about 500 over.
that has already been voted on. That must have been Thursday, was it?
Yeah, if you look at the sheet of the budget modifications, that'll be on your 1015. That's the last item that's located on
Okay,
2026.
Right in
budget
the middle of the page,
modification.
Mr. Smith. I'm just noticing. Christine, yeah, do you want to give the numbers that you gave out at Park and Rec today?
Yes, I can do that. I'm actually just pulled up, so I can be in shortly if you would like to. I can be in just 1 second.
Okay, that works too. Thanks, Christine.
All right, thanks. Bye.
Okay, sorry.
So we would still have about 547,000, let's round it up to 548,000 to remove from capital projects to get down to a 5 million borrowing. I have little things that I can propose that would chip away at it, but I don't know if we're ready for little things or if there's a bigger chunk. So I think we should go back to the municipal building.
We've got $377,700 in one of our projections, and then Mark said that was more of a placeholder on a number, but what is a number that we are wanting to use in that regard? Because I'm obviously not having that in there would make a big difference.
The combined of those three numbers equals exactly 1 million. That's why it's a plug number of 377,700, because I knew the approximation of the other two portions, the boiler replacement and the north parking lot. The $1 million does not include the boiler replacement on the plan that was attached to the packet.
Three parts, the drawings, the parking lot, and to renovate the bathrooms up here.
So this might be overly simplistic, but we could, in the budget, instead of allowing 1 million for boiler, parking lot, additional renovations, allow 500,000 to be used for, broadly speaking, municipal building renovations. And then allow them the discretion to maybe prioritize parking lot and then whatever else you can get with 500,000. But that's kind of a broad stroke approach.
I think that's exactly the kind of cuts we're gonna have to make, or we're gonna be here all night and probably not reach the goal.
So then I can make a motion to move us along then. My motion would be for this line item, which is, I think, 51-70 under municipal building, to reduce the total amount there, which includes those three items, to reduce it from 1 million to 500,000.
Okay, I'll second that.
Sorry. I didn't- No, you didn't.
Okay, is there any other discussion then?
I can turn this off.
I understand better the north parking lot type of proposed improvement. What is the intent behind that expenditure?
The primary benefit of that is to give a divided curb area to allow cruisers to leave the building as quickly as possible, because it would be an alleyway just for those cars. There was a picture in the packet.
Yeah, saw it.
Further discussion?
What quote do we have now for the boiler?
477, is that what it was?
322 was the approximate cost for the boiler.
So I think I'm confused about the $500,000 number then. Because if I add those two numbers, I'm still over 600,000 for the parking lot and the boiler.
So it's a reduction of that whole amount allocated for municipal building from 1 million total to 500,000 total with Mr. Stevens says they have through the borrowing laws, whatever, regulations, we could then say, that's what you got, spend it for municipal building renovations in the most appropriate way.
Right, but within that context, the boiler replacement, how urgent of a replacement is that? Is that an item where we can nurse and repair and take care of and allow that to continue on for a year or two, or is that an absolute type of necessity? Because if it is, you know, obviously we're giving the balance of that for the two other items, and that I'm on board with the 500,000. I'm just trying to get a feel for the urgency of that boiler replacement.
We're on the last leg of the machine. You know, it could go tomorrow, but it could last for 3 years.
Well, the one thing that, this is another example of why the fund balance is an important area of priority for this council, to make sure we keep it at a higher number, so we have it available for expenditures like that, because that's a perfect type of use for a fund balance, is to take it out for something that won't occur again for another 20 or 30 years. That's perfect. That's why you want a healthy fund balance for that.
Yeah, but we can't spend it. Because we're on ERP. So we have to borrow for it. And next year we have 1.9 million in interest that we're paying because we keep borrowing for everything. So we can't tap the fund balance till we get off ERP. So we have to borrow for it.
So we've got a first and a second. Is there any further discussion on the municipal building amount of 500,000? Mm-hmm.
Make it explicit that I can't support the 500,000 because it doesn't seem like the major items fit squarely into it. So I'm interested in leaving at least enough for the parking lot and the boiler, or basically deciding that we want one of those two items.
I would also quip in that it's, you know, our former mayor used to use the example of cutting half of a snow blade. And I think that that's what you're doing at 500,000, because effectively we would buy the north parking lot and the rest of it wouldn't amount to enough to buy the next piece.
I understand that, but it may require another reassessment. This is what we have. What's another approach? This is the funds available.
The way, the way that we used to handle circumstances like that, especially when we were moving forward into an area where there was a consensus to do the project, but the numbers were way up in the air, and multi-year was the only approach we could take, was we just established a reserve account. So if you appropriate $500,000 and it is not feasible to start a second one of these, then you'll have the difference between the one that you do and complete, putting the rest aside to complete possibly next year with another $500,000.
My hesitancy on that is that you're going to borrow money and pay interest to have it sit in a bank account. I don't know why you would borrow it. Just wait. Don't borrow it, because we're going to start paying interest on it.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the right, I mean, it's an arbitrary number of picking 500. I'm sensitive to making that number something that has a possibility of being used. And I think we're probably too low on this item. And we're trying to move it down, and I think we're moving in the right direction, but I would be opposed to the 500 for those reasons.
Okay. So I would be happy to amend my motion to, instead of reducing that from 1 million to 500,000, to reduce it from 1 million to 622,300. Or if you want to make that an even number, I'm happy with that. 625,000,
Second that motion.
625,000, is that what I said? So we've got a first and a second on that amendment. Is there any further discussion?
Well, I think that that's an improvement from the $1 million. I would have supported reducing it from $1 million to 300,000 and knock them off one at a time instead of 2 1 year and leaving the rest. But I'll vote for that one and then see if we can make up a difference
Yep.
with other items.
Any further discussion on the amendment? Okay, let's vote on the amendment then. I made it, so aye. Mr. Berg?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
Mr. Lampy? Okay, so now we have an amended motion, which is for this to be 625,000. And so we've got to, can we just vote on it straight up? Or do we have to discuss it more?
Excuse me?
Can we just vote on it?
We did.
Oh, the amended motion. Oh, we have to do it again, don't we?
Well, that was.
That always throws me.
You actually initiated the motion. I seconded, and then it went to discussion and you were the first because you initiated it.
Maybe it was a friendly.
I was next in line and I voted for it. I think the four of us have voted for
Okay.
your motion.
I think we're on the amended motion, so we should vote for the amended motion.
Okay, so we're going to vote on the amended motion now. Well, I'll vote aye.
No,
Okay. So we have, let's see what we have reduced this to now.
375 we took off.
Ms. Davis?
Yep.
Is it okay if Ms. Butters, talks about what she found with the contractors over the weekend?
That's fine.
Okay, so in total for a brand new building that would be the same size as what we currently have out at the park shop, it would be $600,000 for that exact size. Now, that does not include the storage that we would need that is currently at the recycling center or anything that is currently at Riverside, the old park shop. So that would be unhoused, as well as anything that is still currently in our park yard that we cannot put in our building. If we went with just upgrades to the current safety concerns, which would be ventilation and heat, lighting, and kind of just redoing a bunch of things to get it up to par, came in at $123,500. That was very rough numbers. So that means that within the next year, they could go up. I would probably say I would add a 10% onto that because I don't know what 26 is going to hold. But that's what we're looking at right now.
Okay, you said 123.5.
Yep. Lighting came in over 31,000, and then the ventilation was over 30,000. So
Okay, thank you, thank you. Any questions for her? Okay, yes.
I think those are good numbers, but they are just numbers. They're estimates, they're opinions, and I think we viewed as a priority to delete the 400,000. There's willingness to substitute some kind of a number for a maintenance to the building. And we're getting some suggestion of over 100,000. I think it's arbitrary. I'd give $50,000 to address some of the priority and let the administration or management figure out where to put the money.
Okay. All right, why don't I made a note of your suggestion, Mr. Berg, and we can maybe work on that in a little bit. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Did you have any comments about what Christina shared, Mr. Smith?
I, I'm having I don't know if everybody has their mics on, but I'm having a difficult time hearing some of the presentations, especially from the other side. So that was in regard to the storage building issue that is listed as still subject to discussion. Is that correct? And you've pursued that, and what I did get from it was that there was an estimate you had that was in the $600,000 range for the complete
Yeah.
sized building replicated.
Yes, so I was asked to get quick numbers last week, Wednesday, when we were at the finance meeting for Park Rec and Forestry. And so I got a couple different numbers for you guys to just mull over. The 600,000 is a completely new building, same size as we currently have. All same amenities. This one does come with a wash bay, very exciting stuff. However, if we are looking at reducing cost and going with just fixes to current safety issues, the total is 123.5. Again, very rough numbers. So nothing that I can hold a candle to at all. It's just the numbers that they give us for this time. They will change in 26 just because everything does increase. So the main things were the ventilation and the lighting were huge. I'm sorry, the electrical and the ventilation, because the lighting is included in the electrical. The electrical came back over $31,000. I did send that invoice off to Mayor Stocks and Mr. Stevens. And then the ventilation came back around $30,000. So those are the two big ticket items that we would need for safety reasons. In total, it came back at 123.5.
And so those options are in the alternative. You either get the new building for 600,000, or you put the repair dollars into the old building.
Their numbers.
Okay.
Okay?
All right,
All right.
thank you, thank you. So I just wanted to give you an updated amount. We're at 5,172,000. Let's round it to 173. 5,173,000. So our goal is to cut off another 173,000.
Could I make a motion to act on the 123 before we move on?
I mean, you can. Where I am on that is I have some items that might chip away at that number. And so if we can chip away, that'll change where I land on her suggestion or her amount there. So you're welcome to make a motion. I'm just,
Yeah, I would like to make that motion then. I mean, to put that 123,500 into 0555 4170. That's, I suppose I should wait for a second.
yep. So we have a motion on the table from Mr. Lampy to add 123,500 to the park, which ends in 4170. And he's looking for a second. Okay, if there is no second, then that motion fails for right now. So,
You wanted to not necessarily vote on that large ticket proposal for the building. And I know that there were some things Alderman Berg had mentioned, but while Christine is here, what I'm interested in finding out is at Wednesday night, you indicated that you were interested in using Parkland improvement funds for the playground replacement. Now, we have 200,000 that is budgeted or at least listed as an expenditure for 2026. And I don't know whether or not you're anticipating that being off budget by using funds from the Parkland Improvement Account? Or is this part of the 05 account that we're looking to fund tonight?
Sorry, I moved too quickly. I was hoping to get the 200,000 funded out of the Fund 5, because I do have other monies allotted out of that fund that you're referring to for more playground stuff, so in conjunction with. I did get some quotes back on playground equipment for one of the parks that has two separate playgrounds, one for 2 to 5 and the other for 5 to 12. And that came back at $250,000 with surfacing. So a better surfacing that anyone can use. So this 200,000 will help me get close to that.
You mentioned previously in relation to using the Parkland Improvement Funds that you were thinking ADA type improvements with the Parkland Improvement.
Yes.
And I never did get a division between the money that was in that combined account, the Parkland Dedication account and the Parkland Improvement account. They were lumped together. How much money do we have just in the Parkland Improvement account?
I apologize, I forgot to look that one up. But I want to say it's around 95.
Okay, and you were going to use all or most of that for ADA improvements?
I would like to. None of our current playgrounds are compliant.
Okay, but that's not anywhere in the budget right now.
Not currently.
Okay.
Mr. Smith, I kind of got a number from Brian Zerbis. I think it's like 390, it's around 400,000 right now in the Parkland fund. There's
Replacement,
around 400,000 is in there right now.
replacement.
Yeah, well, it's using the
Well,
parks.
Improvement of any type that was a qualified expenditure.
Those new funds.
'Cause that's not on our budget.
He must be projecting into the future on that.
Yeah, with all the housing units going up. So Brian gave me numbers here with if the Oxbow goes up and then when all the houses are done, so within the next 2 years or so, we should have about 400,000 in there.
Well, where I'm going is I would love to see the replacements of those playgrounds. And if the amount that is viewed as appropriate and reasonable in 1 year is 200,000, I think we can take this out of the budget and use Parkland Improvement money. Because we have a steady revenue stream. This is not like Parkland Dedication, where you get some money and you get some land. Every single new dwelling unit pays the Parkland Improvement fee. And we have got a substantial stream of houses that are going to be coming online. So this is going to be a source of continuing revenue well into the future. And I'm just looking at 200,000 in a fund where we're trying to cut or when it started, 4 plus times that. And I'm seeing we can get the improvement and do it with a designated fund account outside of Fund 5. And so that's why I'm interested in what that balance was. And if in fact we have $400,000 in the Parkland Improvement Account, or within the next year or two, that would be the amount that would be coming in from these new homes as they have occupancy, then I think that we should use that now and use it for that purpose.
So, Mr. Smith, are you referring to Fund 5 under Park, the $200,000 for playground replacements?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
On my notes, I had thought about reducing it from 200,000 to 100,000 is what I had put in my suggested notes.
Want to make that a motion?
Well, yeah, but what I would love to do, and that's perfectly fine if we wanted to take this incrementally, but we could do Parkland replacements annually, 100,000 a year, and we,
I can't put a playground in with ADA compliance for less than $200,000. I can't put a good playground in for replacements, and all of my playgrounds are in deferred maintenance right now. As we speak, most of them need to be replaced. So if you cut it back to 100,000, I might only be able to do certain things, and I will not be able to put new equipment in, just for awareness.
well, I'd like to see one get done. I'd just like to see it get out of Fund 5. And I don't see why, if we have that degree of present funding available, or in a certain revenue stream within the next year or two, which means if we deplete the account substantially to do a playground, $200,000 worth, that it would be very rapidly replaced by new revenues coming in from new homes. Either way, it comes out of here and we get a playground replacement of the order that Christine says is the cost today.
Right. But Alderperson Smith, we have, how many parks do we have, and how many playground areas do we have in the city that we have to do maintenance on, Christine?
Currently, we have about, I want to say 10 that need to be replaced.
10. Yeah, so, and we're counting dollars that aren't here currently. We're gonna have them based on what we've been told. And I think the more prudent approach would be to do it incrementally, evaluate if these trends occur like we're hoping, and we have the money there a year from now. It'll be a lot easier to be more aggressive a year from now. But 100,000 would be my maximum. I would be okay with taking from that account to share with.
Mayor?
I just forwarded an email for you, so some of the developments, the Expo and some of the new subdivisions, Brian gave me numbers of 50,000, 85,000, 43,000 when they're all complete. But some of those are gonna be multiple years away,
That's right.
so that fund isn't gonna be there now or next year. In the future, yes.
So is that money required to actually, to then turn around and put a playground in? Or does it not have to be used for that, for those developments? Do you have to use that money
They-
to put a?
The email essentially, they either can donate land and then the fees lower. It can be, like Brian put in, $641 per unit, or if they don't have any park in that area, it's $1,264 per unit. So Oxbow, each apartment complex would pay that fee of $641.
Well, let me make a suggestion. I do have some lower ticket items. Could we go over my ideas for the lower ticket items and see how far that gets us, or are you all interested in making a motion?
I'm supportive of a motion, just to moderate the amount. And I am a bit concerned about the idea of using dollars coming from new development that are gonna be then earmarked for existing other locations within town that need replacement or repair or improvement. So as long as it's allowed for us to do it that way, that's fine, but each of these projects, when they actually are fully built out, are gonna have a need for some degree of playground equipment to address that need.
Those new ones like at Rock River Ridge, those funds are designed to put playground equipment there. So those funds will be needed to put new stuff in.
If they're earmarked for there, are they are those same dollars, those are separate dollars from what you're saying
They
we're gonna
can't
have
be like,
available?
when the Oxbow goes, then those funds could go to a different park. So Christine would have to use those funds to either put a playground in that vacant area or put in a different park. So just what those funds are designed for the new parks.
I think we'd be wise to be cautious and to limit the amount of this first year. 100,000 makes sense to me.
Mr. Burke, are you making a motion?
I am making a motion
100,000 from what?
from the Park Improvement Fund to be used to supplement and to reduce that amount of 200 to 100,000.
We were on Fund 5, where there's a request for $200,000.
That's what I'm,
I guess what he's saying
I
is
am.
he wants to cut it 100,000 and use
I do.
100,000 of Parkland improvement money
that's my
to
motion.
get a total 200,000 to do a
That's right.
playground.
Yep,
But do we need to just make one motion, though, to reduce from 200,000 to 100,000 for Fund 5?
that's fine.
You can include where the 100,000 is coming from as well, if you want to.
Yeah, I don't see why they can't be part of the motion. In other words, we want to get a playground replaced. We don't want to spend 200,000 out of Fund 5. His motion is to cut 100,000 from Fund 5, but that's going to be conditioned on getting the playground done, which means making part of the motion that we use 100,000 from the Parkland Improvement Fund.
That was my intent.
Okay, so that would increase expenses then for that fund?
0758 1115, page 63.
Okay, does everybody understand the motion then? Okay, then we need a second.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? Mr. Lampy?
I don't understand them.
The motion is to cut the Fund 5 allocation of 200,000 to 100,000 and use that in concert with $100,000 from the Parkland Improvement Fund for a single sufficient amount to replace one playground.
So it would be an increase to, Mr. Stevens, I think you said 0758 1115
Correct.
of $100,000. So we've got a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I still think this one is premature without an idea of what monies we're going to get in or what we're supposed to be using that for in the future.
Mhm.
That's, I think that was a little hard to scare up in the past couple of days, but without any information on that, I really don't feel confident in depleting this fund.
Your estimated fund balance at the end of this year is about 246,000.
Yeah, we have adequate funds right now to take from the existing account and to subtract it by 100,000 and to earmark it for this project. So that was my intent.
Yeah, and I agree that's what's on the page. I just think it's short-sighted without knowing what revenues we're supposed to get and what expenses this fund would normally have gone for in the future. Sitting on Park and Rec, there are a number of parks that we still intend to develop in concert with the new developments that are coming into town. We also have other obligations that we are hoping to use this for. So without those obligations being known, I'm not entirely sure that it makes
Yeah.
sense to cross the streams, if you will, and just pull out of a fund that happens to have funds in it at the moment.
Well, that was my intent though. So
Mayor?
I agree with Mr. Lampy. If you want to cut it to 100,000, but just leave the Parkland right now as is. It's your motions, but I agree with Mr. Lampy. You want to cut the 200 to 100, but designating the parkland fees at this time probably wouldn't be the best choice to do.
Well, we've been told by our finance director, we have over $200,000 in that account.
Yeah, well, we could take it out as is, and we can bring it to finance, so if Ms. Butters thinks 192,000 would be taking care of a park, then we'll take 92,000 out of the parkland fees. But instead of designating exactly 100,000 gotta be spent out of there, it'd be easier just to, if she comes up with prices for the parks, we can come and let you know how much it's gonna be. The 100,000 for borrowing, if it winds up being 126,000, for example, we'll take 26,000 of parkland fees.
And just my preference is just to keep us focused on Fund 5 here too, for the same reasons that you all have said. I'm sure Christine has ideas of how she would like to spend that money, and I would like to give her the autonomy to make those decisions, knowing that the funds that are available through borrowing, 100,000, and then what's available in that fund. So any other discussion?
I don't see where the issue of autonomy is. This is a budget they submitted. It was for the specific purpose of playground replacement.
Yeah.
It was for 200,000. The initial thought was to reduce it to 100,000, which I guess is what some people want to do in just exclusively. But then we were told that it was not possible to do a playground replacement for 100,000, that they needed $200,000. So we're trying to get the requested playground replacement for one park funded by
That's right.
$100,000 from Fund 5 and $100,000 from an account that is for that very purpose.
That's right.
Christine, did you have any follow-up thoughts? Okay. Any further discussion on this matter?
Well, right now we have a motion, right?
A motion and a second. So we're
For
ready.
$100,000 cut to Fund 5 and using $100,000 from the Parkland Improvement Account.
That's my intent.
That's
my
the
mo-
motion.
Let's go ahead and vote. Mr. Berg,
Aye.
Mr. Smith,
Aye.
Mr. Lampy,
No,
Dana? No. Okay. I have a suggestion for a cut, and that would be building safety and zoning, which is 524170. They're requesting $35,000 for a new vehicle or a newer vehicle. Their current vehicle, it's my understanding from the presentation that they have two vehicles and that this would be a replacement vehicle. And the vehicle they wish to replace just has 76,000 miles on it currently. So my recommendation, and I'll go ahead and make a motion, my motion would be to reduce building safety and zoning's $35,000 for that vehicle. Is there a second to that?
second that.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. And again, I think we're at roughly $173,000 that we're trying to chip away at. And so this $35,000 is an amount that can chip away at that. I have some other ideas too as we go. So we got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Yes?
Do we want to talk a little bit about the rest of the fleet? Is that applicable to vehicle availability?
I don't know if it necessarily is because they do have two vehicles, is my understanding. So they have two working vehicles right now. So this should just postpone getting a replacement vehicle for one of those. Okay, any further discussion? All right, we can take a vote then. It's my motion, so I'll vote aye. Mr. Lampy,
Aye.
Smith,
Aye.
Mr. Berg. All right, so that motion passes and that's $35,000 down. So,
I
Yep.
know,
yes, go ahead.
I know that the last motion failed, but there was some discussion about only cutting $100,000 from Fund 5, not trying to designate where the rest of the money would come from. That was never really brought to a motion. And I think that that would be a motion that would be fine as a follow-up, the other motion having failed. So I'll make a motion to cut the park playground replacement 200,000 to $100,000.
I'll second the motion.
All right, we've got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion?
Again, we can vote on this and hopefully it goes through, but the intent is still gonna be the same. So we're just apparently doing things to satisfy some concern some people may have, but I think we know where the other 100,000 is gonna come from.
Yes, Mayor?
Just want to let you know, Ms. Butter has offered, she said that there's a tree spade that's $23,000. She said that they can be pushed off for another year if you want to maybe cut that particular item.
Which one would that be? I'm sorry. Tree spade? Is-
That's on page 62 above the 400,000 blue.
It's giving you another item to cut, so maybe you think before cutting out of the park, maybe that's another item you could cut instead. No, it's a little lower, but
Well, we already have a motion on the
I
floor.
know, I'm just letting you know. She
Okay.
just mentioned that to me, I tried to get it in.
And here's my point. We cut 200,000 to 100,000. If you look at the 3 successive years, the proposed budget for playground replacement is $100,000. It's not like we're taking the $200,000 and making it unusable because it's only 100,000. All that the department was requesting for the 3 following out years was $100,000 for the playground replacement.
Okay, Mr. Stevens, the tree spade of 23,000, that falls under that same line item, correct?
Correct. When
So-
you're on Fund 5, it just puts them by department. So all park-related expenses are on the same capital expenditure -70.
So if Christine does not use the $23,000 for a tree spade, she can use it in that park item to improve a park.
Yes.
So, okay. So we've got a motion and a second. Any further discussion about that? Okay, let's take a vote. I think Mr. Smith, you made the motion.
Aye.
Mr. Berg?
Aye.
Let's vote aye. Mr. Lampy?
Nope.
Okay, so that passes 3-1. So if I'm doing my math correctly, we're looking for about 37,000, 38,000.
Alderperson Davis, we're still looking at having to address that shed issue, and by deleting the 400,000, having to put some money back in there to some degree is gonna aggravate your number. So I think we haven't resolved that topic, and when we do,
Yeah.
we're gonna need to make another subtraction to offset.
Correct, and I have some more suggestions. So here's my next suggestion.
Well,
I'm going to suggest for fire, so this would be 523170. They're requesting $30,000 for a hydrofusion stabilizer equipment. And as it was explained to us in the presentation, this would be a new piece of equipment that they currently do not have, and it's my understanding have not had. So it's not a replacement. It's not something that is broken and they need to replace. It would be a new piece of equipment that they have operated without previously. So maybe it could wait a year. So that's amount of $30,000. So I will make a motion to reduce fire by $30,000 for that hydrofusion stabilizer equipment.
Second?
Okay, we've got a motion and a second.
I think Tanya might be on.
Yeah, I have Chief Peeper in the room and he is the extrication expert for us. If you don't mind, I'd like to let him just speak on it, what it would benefit or what the cost would be to the department if we don't get them.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right, so yes, that is correct. We do not currently have the hydrofusions. What they enable us to do is they enable us to stabilize and lift large items. We've just been, I guess, for the better part, lucky that we haven't had to use them. Right now, we don't have equipment for like a large dump truck rolled over on another vehicle. Someone stuck underneath some type of equipment that we can, these allow us to lift and stabilize with just, it's basically a hand pump and they can lift upwards of 25,000 pounds each. So it's basically setting us up to be able to handle that emergency instead of having to wait for the nearest department would be about 25 minutes away that has that equipment.
Thank you. Any further discussion?
I think we've just heard a case that sounds fairly persuasive, but we can delay. Obviously hope that they continue with what they're doing now to address the problem when they have it. I mean, we're taking a chance. I don't know, I could go either way on it.
Further discussion? I am correct, we have a first and a second, right? It all starts to blend together.
Yep.
Mr. Lampy? Any comments? Okay. So any further discussion on this? So we can go ahead and vote then. I'm going to vote aye. Mr. Berg?
No.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
Mr. Lampy? All right, so we're still chipping away then. So I do have another suggestion, if you don't mind. You guys mind? So IT systems, if you add all of those requests together, so this would be 8670, it's around $152,000. We eliminated the addition of an assistant IT. And my thought is that this would be a lot for perhaps one person to do in a year. So my thought is to reduce this just by $50,000. So they would still get a little over $100,000 to prioritize the purchases needed. But it would reduce it by $50,000. So I'll go ahead and make that motion to reduce IT systems 518670 by $50,000.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion then?
And
My only comment is that I think we're being a bit arbitrary in picking a number like 50. It's a good number to pick. You're basically giving discretion to that department to prioritize with what's left there to pick the highest items of need and to stay within the budget that's been revised by a reduced amount of 50,000, right?
That's correct. Yep. They have the discretion to prioritize. Yes, Mr. Lampy.
I agree with Alder Berg's comments on this one. I frankly would be more comfortable with the number that's about 35, which would potentially pick up any of the four items that you see itemized there. But I have a feeling that these are pretty well priced at the numbers that you see there.
Any further discussion? We've got a motion to reduce this line item by $50,000.
As an FYI, all of this is outsourced work. None of it's done by our own person.
Oh, and we have a line item to pay for that?
That's included in what you see.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, this is the delivered price.
Okay. Any further discussion? All right, let's vote. I'll vote aye. Mr. Berg?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
aye.
Mr. Lampy?
Aye.
All right, so that passes. And so, if I'm doing my calculations right, we just dropped under 5 million and we're at 4.987. And I know Mr. Berg wanted to add back about 50,000 for repairs to the storage building.
I had conversation with the mayor and I think he just was, he hadn't looked at this, in any depth like Christine has, but, the feeling was that if we gave some money back to address the highest priority need, 50,000 can address hopefully the problem. And we obviously have a contingency account of 105,000. If those priorities become, that important, they can go to the mayor and make the case and come back to the finance for additional funds if needed. So I would make the motion for 50,000.
I'll second that.
All right, so we have a motion to add back to park $50,000. Any further discussion on that? Yes?
I remain in favor of the higher number. I may actually throw that on the table here in a bit. I am concerned that in open finance session, we did talk about some potential life safety issues on the building that could be actionable either from an insurance perspective or an employee perspective. So I would like to see a little higher contribution, but I'll certainly support the start of 50 to get that work started.
Okay, any further discussion?
What is the status of the 400,000 right now?
Oh.
It's gone. We voted already for that to be removed.
Yep,
That was done last week, Thursday, Mr. Smith.
What's that?
The $400,000 was taken out last
Right.
week, Thursday,
It was Wednesday,
or Wednesday, sorry.
That was my motion and it was unanimous.
correct.
So you're putting 50,000 back in and we already in your numbers have removed the 400,000. Okay,
So if we put 50,000 back in, we'll be over the 5 million by about 38,000. So we've got any further discussion on adding 50,000 back? Okay. I think Mr. Berg, you made the motion,
Aye.
aye.
Mr. Lampy, and I'll vote aye.
Oh.
So we're at 37,000 over, 38 over. Where do you want to do?
I'd like to know what the line item, it's just listed under infrastructure. It says increase street infrastructure, 500,000. So what does that mean? Could that be any type of road project or whatever?
I'm gonna have Andrew speak on that.
It's my understanding that that number is to add additional infrastructure work pertaining to either resurfacing or maintenance work with street candidates yet to be determined, but generally broad in nature.
So it could be all it could be all resurfacing or it could be none, right? It's just a broad, we're gonna put money into streets kind of account.
No.
Could get some direction here and move some candidates forward for either resurfacing or maintenance. You know, with some direction, we can come back with a more fine-tuned approach too.
The reason I'm pursuing that is because I supported the idea of borrowing 5 million, which basically means 5 million out of this account or 5 million for this account. But the amount over the 450,000 is something that I wanted to designate and specifically require to be all resurfacing money. Now, I don't know if the way to do that is to simply leave that $500,000 as it is and simply make a motion that would designate that all for resurfacing, in which instance my prerequisite would be met. Or if it's anticipated that it's needed for a variety of other things so that $500,000 would not go for resurfacing, then I need to try to address it in a different way.
Well, my thought on that, Mr. Smith, I had multiple aldermen on Public Works had a request for additional funds. So my thought was to allow Public Works to determine where that $500,000 would be spent and how, whether it was mill and overlay or resurfacing. But you're free to make whatever motion you like.
Well, we can certainly add money for other areas. I mean, I personally thought that the 80,000 for seal and crack sealing and shield coating was less than we had usually been doing and things like that. And I just didn't want them to look at the needful areas of improvements and just eat away to the point where the resurfacing becomes a smaller and smaller amount. So what I would like to do, and then we can address any other category through cuts or increases, but I would like to designate that $500,000 currently identified as increased street infrastructure as exclusively for resurfacing.
Are we able to do that, Mr. Stevens? Yes. So is that a motion, Mr. Smith?
Yes?
Okay, we have a motion for that 500,000 to be designated for resurfacing.
Just as a point of clarification, though, from Andrew, because we've discussed the issue before, mill and overlay is a very, very popular approach to addressing street improvement. You get a lot more bang for the buck by using your dollars on mill and overlay. I respect the resurfacing of a street, but you can do less with that approach because you're basically digging up a street and you're putting down new infrastructure underneath as far as stone and you're addressing that street in a more complete way. It'll last longer.
No,
But-
no, that's not what, no. I'm talking about resurfacing, not any reconstruction.
I don't want reconstruction either, but I do think we have to have latitude of being able to do mill and overlay as one of the options within.
Well, that would be what resurfacing is.
Yep, Andrew?
Clarification.
I can perhaps provide a bit of clarification here. So resurfacing is a wide variety of projects of different scopes. It can include mill and overlay. It can include a full depth pavement removal and replacement, or a peel and pave where you remove all 4 inches down to the gravel. You kind of sweeten up the gravel base and put back a new asphalt mat. Resurfacing can include a number of those different project scopes. So I would consider mill and overlay and, a full depth pavement replacement project, both resurfacing projects.
I would too.
Okay.
And so when we see resurfacing as the generic title for the $444,000 of identified streets, I don't think we're trying to micromanage what type of resurfacing it is. We just don't want it to be a reconstruction street. We want it to be a resurfaced street.
Okay.
Which could include milling away and putting down a layer on top.
I think we just have a motion. We need a second.
I'll second it as long as that's the intent.
Any further discussion on that? All right, let's take a vote. Mr. Smith?
Aye.
Mr. Berg?
Aye.
I'll vote aye. Mr. Lampy?
Aye.
Okay. So now the question on the table is, we're roughly 38,000 over. Where are you all on that? Do you want to keep chipping away at that 38,000? Are you ready to rest? Are you?
I think I've been on the airport commission for 4 years. I'm an advocate for the airport in a very high regard. However, I know when it comes to fencing that we have typically addressed that in different ways and in different amounts annually. And 110,000 is a decent amount to appropriate for that type of use. But I've seen it to be lesser numbers, and that's why I think it is in some ways a topic for some discussion. I'm not a strong proponent of adjusting it down, but I do know that we've had some different numbers that we've addressed in doing fencing around the airport to take care of that. It's a continuing maintenance type of need. but it doesn't have to be that number.
Mr. Stevens?
That number is in green, which is an indication that the money is already in place. This is a carryover request from prior years. The Airport Commission had put it off for a little bit until the Boomer Street relocation took place. So this is not a request for additional borrowed
Okay.
money.
All right, well, then we're not fixing the problem by adjusting it.
No.
Mr. Lampy?
Davis, since you had requested it, I think we're about 37,000 off a giant round number. I for one am in favor of attempting to see if we can lop that off of the street allocation and get to a round number for bonding.
I have a $10,000 motion that you all may or may not go to before we go to streets. Is that okay? So media, it's $10,000, digital preservation and storage. I will make a motion to remove, this is 518470, remove that $10,000 from media for digital preservation and storage.
Could you tell me which one that is again?
Sure, it's under media and it's 05518470. So it's on page 59, elections, municipal building, and then media.
Budget packet, but you have a different document.
Okay, yeah, I'm using a different document. That's why I have a little bit of a. Okay.
Give that to Fred.
On the table,
Yep,
I need a second.
10,000 there. Yeah, I have it. That's fine, thanks. I think thank you is,
Before I consider a second on that, but tell me again, the rationale for that item being picked.
It was my understanding that they were running out of storage space and needed to purchase some additional cloud storage space. Is that what you all understood? Sir, is that what you said, server space?
Yes.
Okay. So it's additional server space.
do you need a second?
I do need a second.
Second.
Okay, so we've got a first and a second. I need further discussion.
I want to double check to make sure what I just said was accurate. Okay, I'm looking in the memo right now. It's 2026, which might be in here. There's a new website.
I think, as I remember, Lisa didn't remember that she had a capital improvement project, and then Mr. Stevens reminded her that she did. And that was my understanding, it was for additional storage. They were running out of space.
Yeah. I would admit that since she didn't remember it,
That's
it
my thinking.
could disappear.
That was my thinking. All right, any further discussion then? All right, let's go ahead and vote. I'll vote aye. Oh, did you, Mr. Berg?
Yeah, I am sensitive to that department because it might be an easy target to pick and find money from, but in the end, media and the things they do for us are equally important, and they do contribute to the image of our city as far as how it's presented. I just am a little bit hesitant to take out of an account that I don't think they're ever on the high end of priority when it comes to budget monies, and I'm a bit hesitant just because of that fact that I feel she may have overlooked it, but I think the intent was still to have it.
Further discussion?
Excuse
No
me?
more discussion? We can vote? Okay, let's go ahead and vote on that. So we're moving $10,000 from media, and we have a first and a second, and now we're going to vote. So I'll vote aye. Mr. Berg?
No.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
Mr. Lampy?
Aye.
All right. So that brings our total at 27,574. Mr. Lampy, did you want to make a motion?
Did, but I'll ask Mr. Stevens to check my numbers on this. I would like to reduce 58,1169 by 27,574. Specifically,
I agree with that number.
specifically in the area of resurfacing street infrastructure.
How much is the amount you want to reduce it by?
27,574.
That's what the number I have too. So Mr. Lampy is making a motion to reduce the designated money that we just made. Is that what you're?
Correct.
Per street.
Streets just by 27,574. I'll second that motion.
What is the number again?
So that's going to come out of the annual streets, which is 558,1169. And basically, we're just reducing that $500,000 designation that we just did by $27,000.
You seconded?
I did second it.
Yeah, and on the discussion, I would say again that that number also is a bit arbitrary, and because of the need for a priority on streets, I would preserve that 27,000 for the additional street need. And I would be in favor if there's nothing magic about the 5 million per se. If it's 27 over, in order to give a priority to streets, I would think that's a money well spent.
My only response to that is that nice round number is nice to work with, and it's nice to present to people. And it, as far as this is the amount we're borrowing, so it's easier to communicate to the public how much is being borrowed. That's why I'm a proponent of just this flat number. Yes, Mr. Lampy.
I would echo that. I'm nervous that we are over, even if it's just by a little bit, that we're essentially over the top line of our finance director's recommended bonding schedule.
And another thing to point out, this is, I don't remember borrowing $5 million for capital improvements before. Any further discussion about this? So we're just reducing, basically, we're just reducing streets by $27,000.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel the need is there.
Mr. Smith, do you have any discussion?
Well, if we need to cut 27,000, I'm happy to contribute to that, but I just don't think we should be cutting it from streets.
That's what the motion is, though.
Yep.
I know.
So any other discussion?
Against it.
Well, I guess I'm curious, since the model that we've been trying for is essentially, are there any other cuts that we think we should be discussing before we look at this as a balancing item?
Okay, no, we're on a motion right now we have to act on.
Yeah. Well, go ahead and,
We're discussing the motion, so the amount, the topic that was queued up here was we should be pulling it from somewhere else. Okay. We can table the motion. We can, knock it down and go for something else. If you have something else you actually want to do, if there's nothing else to cut, then we should act on this motion.
Well, I think there's plenty of other things to cut. And I would have some to suggest if we get rid of this one.
Can I table this motion then?
the rules for that are, you have to pull out our rules. I believe if you table, you're supposed to table to a later date. There's no such, Robert's rules are just tabling. You have to table to a later date, and it's meant to just set it aside temporarily and pick it up again at the next, later on in the meeting.
Yeah, not the same meeting.
Which is, well, you just said two different things.
I did?
No, you and Mr. Berg did.
And it is.
My intention to pick this up essentially is the capstone if we are still over. But if we still have additional cuts you want to discuss, let's defer this motion, table it, and just somebody who is more familiar than I with parliamentary rules, tell me what I'm supposed to be doing to do that. Does a table, though, get us to the temporary suspension of this so we can pick it up later tonight?
No
Yeah,
no discussion on it either once you make the motion.
Yeah. So
You
we're
can
just
make a
looking-
tabling motion
You-
and take it off the table at any point in the future.
Okay, I can live with that. So that, then yes, I'm tabling.
So Mr. Lampy has made a motion to table. Technically, there's no discussion. So is there a second?
Second it?
So we've got a motion and a second. Any further, we don't discuss, so Mr. Lampy?
Aye.
I'll vote no. Mr. Berg?
No.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
So it fails. Okay. So we're looking for $27,574. Any suggestions?
Well, we still have the,
Well,
we still have the active.
Don't we have a motion on the floor?
Oh. Thank you. Thank you for helping me. So we have a motion, and was there a second to that? Oh, I forgot. And the motion was to take it out of streets. Okay, here we go. Mr. Lampy.
Aye.
Well, I got a way to proceed.
Yeah,
If you
Tell us,
have a,
need your help.
I mean, yeah, I mean, I would amend it to, I'll amend that motion to simply move the, focus of the $27,000 cut to a different category.
So vote down the motion.
Let's just, yeah, I think it'd be clean. Let's vote down the motion. I agree. So, Mr. Lampy, the motion is to remove it from streets.
Yes, aye.
I'll vote no. Mr. Berg,
No.
Mr. Smith.
No.
Okay, thank you everyone for your patience.
Okay, I think since we're looking for simplicity and probably interested in moving on off of this Fund 5, there's nothing specific about the $1 million that was originally part of the municipal building renovations. As a matter of fact, the document that we got from I got too many sheets here, but I can tell you that the total amount of the dollars for that in the updated version from the contractor, whomever, was $1,054,000, if I'm right. If I have to, I can probably find it.
That was in our packet this evening.
You're correct. You're correct that that was just a placeholder amount.
Anyway, so what we did was we cut 375,000 from that. And what I would suggest we do is we just take the 27,000 from that collective group of municipal building projects, which would still leave us enough to do two projects.
I'll second that motion. Any further discussion? Mr. Lampy.
So I thought we revisited this an hour ago where we looked at these two items, the two items that remain, the 322,300 as the boiler replacement and the 300,000 for the north parking lot as fairly firm numbers. Where if we didn't fully fund those, that we couldn't get them done.
I'm just trying to find the document.
The
On
numbers
that
in the
one,
packet.
Mark, on the $1,054,000, do you have that? I mean, I can't find my document, so what I'm wondering is, do you have that
Yeah,
broken down among the three projects?
The north parking lot, about 370,000. And then the difference is made up of bathroom projects, which is the difference. The architects did not include the boiler replacement in that phase one. It's incorporated in piecemeal in phases A, B, and C.
Okay, so would we be able to proceed with those two projects if the 625,000 was reduced by $27,000?
The answer I thought I heard just a second ago is a little bit different than what I thought I heard an hour ago. Because if the boiler project is spread across multiple years, AKA piecemeal, that means that the 322 that's represented here can be broken up.
More than likely.
And I think we also discussed that we're giving, or we're allocating this total amount to the municipal building to be used appropriately for either improvements or a boiler or whatever is determined in a prioritized way. So, Mr. Smith, to me, it would seem like if this is the chunk of money that's available, this is the chunk of money available.
Yes, and I'm thinking that the overwhelming amount of any two of those would be fundable, and these are very rough estimates. So I'm just thinking, we're looking to cut something. This is a massive appropriation that we have. We have no idea exactly what the bids would come in for, and I'm sure that 27,000 out of this account would be as good as any.
So we've got a motion by Mr. Smith and I seconded it. Any other discussion?
And the feeling is, from Alderperson Smith, that with that 598,000 that you're bringing it down to from the 625, that you feel you can take care of two of the three projects.
I think there's a real good chance of it, yeah.
All right. All right.
Any further discussion? All right, let's take a vote. Mr. Smith?
Aye.
Mr. Berg?
Yes.
I'll vote yes. Mr. Lampy? You said aye? Okay, that brings us down to $5 million.
Yeah.
I would make a motion that we take a 5-minute break.
That's a good idea.
Or, Mark, can you confirm that number?
I agree with it.
All right, let's take a break. All right, everybody, we are going to go on to letter F, which is 2026 budget proposal discussion follow-up from prior budget meetings. I think we're going to focus most of our time for this section on Fund 1. And before we get into that, though, I wanted to draw our attention to the really helpful document that Mr. Stevens emailed to us. And for those of you, Mr. Berg and Mr. Smith, it was part of this little packet I gave you. It's the last page. So the last page is the what if tax rate impacts. And this was very, very helpful. And I think if you take a look at this, he's kind of shows us what happens if we go up or increase the levy and by how much. So as we know, we can't do anything with the debt levy, which is 6.1. The only thing we can really impact is the general levy, which right now is 10,860,000.
One second.
Yes.
For clarification. We just adjusted down our debt borrowing.
For
Some of the changes we made just recent.
True, but that's for Fund 5. What we have here is the debt levy, which is Fund 4, which was set last year with last year's borrowing. So the debt levy of 6.1 is set because that's borrowing that happened last year. So multiple years, yeah.
It's all of our past borrowings and how much we pay on principal and interest in the next year.
Including this year. The debt, the new debt, in addition to existing, equaling the total amount of levy.
Correct. So what we borrowed this year that we'll start paying interest on next year.
Right, but we just adjusted down, didn't we, some of our debt intent for next year by some of the changes we just made?
No, that's New Year's borrowing, not New Year's debt payments. Okay, so next year when we borrow $5 million, if that's proposed and approved, none of that is paid for in 26.
Right,
So the only
Right.
control that we have tonight in reducing the change, percent change of last year over this year of 7.6, the only way we can control that is through the general levy, which right now is
all right.
10,860,000, which is $400,000 more this year than last year.
All right, let me, yep, let me understand though, just to make a comment on the debt service levy amount. I'm, Mark, please clarify, but the fire station and the borrowing that occurred with that new borrowing, is there anything that was delayed in the amount that is now impacting on us for next year that because of the approach we took on borrowing?
The delay in borrowing later in the year
Yeah,
was the impact for this next year. Because we borrowed after the 6 months, the first 6 months. And so we will be going greater than a 6-month term before we're paying interest. And so next year's interest takes into consideration this year's August through December that we're not paying any interest on.
and what was
Typically,
the
we're
reasoning
paying-
for that? Why?
Because our hope was to be able to see if there was any possibility of reducing the total borrowing, but we had to wait for the station to be built to see what contingencies might have arisen.
Okay.
Yeah, because I'm of some opinion that we've done some things in our strategy that are actually coming back to haunt us a bit on this amount of debt levy that we have to now deal with. And I'm not happy with that decision, but it is what it is.
So I want to draw our attention back to this what if tax rate impacts document, just so that we all understand what's going on. Under 2025 additional levy, it starts with that 15,760,000. That was the number of last year. That was the total levy from last year. Then if you add 800,000, that brings us to 16,560,000. That 800,000 amount is the amount of increase to the debt levy. So at a very minimum, with the debt levy, our levy is going to be 16,560,000. And then if you follow the line across, you can see the impact for a $100,000 home, 200,000, and so on. So I wanted you to kind of maybe check or star that 16,560,000 because that is debt levy, which we can't control, and then a 0% increase to general levy. Now, let me just show you one more thing before we start digging into the numbers again. If you go down that list to the second from the bottom where it says 16,960,000, you'll see to the left of that 1,200,000. That number is made up of that $800,000 of debt levy, which we have to do, and then the $400,000 that is proposed in the budget for a total of $1,200,000. And then if you follow the line across, that's the impact. So the first number I showed you was the number with a 0% increase to the general levy. And then the second number I showed you is the amount with a $400,000 to the general levy as proposed in the original budget we got. Okay, I just thought it'd be helpful to keep your eyes on those numbers. All right, now, Mr. Stevens tells us that it would be a good idea for us to tackle to revisit numbers that you'll see on this page at the bottom under where it says 10, 20, 20, 25. And Mr. Stevens suggests that we work our way through this revisit. And if there's no opposition to that, I'll take his advice. Okay, Mr. Stevens, start us off.
The first item on the list right under the 1020 line is not something that we've talked about, but it came to light in the course of a resolution that I presented earlier that was tabled, postponed from conversation. And that is that we have a tax exempt service charges on our books that have been on our books since forever. But because of a fairly recent court case in the state of Wisconsin is not considered legal. And so it was incorporated into our revenue at the 17,400 amount. And I'm suggesting, based on our attorney's input, that we consider that to be removed from our revenue projection.
So I'm trying to figure out, for those of you who I gave this packet to, I gave you this line that has our revenue and expenses on it. So basically, we've got to take the total revenue and just subtract 17,400 from it, is essentially what he's saying. Okay. Any questions about that?
Yeah, Mark, is that something that you're saying we can't do? Or is it something that would still be permissible if we made that as a voluntary option?
And I asked that question of the attorney and I didn't get a response from her yet. But I am going to suggest that we work towards encouraging those that have been paying it to continue to pay it voluntarily.
Exactly, and I think many would. So removing the whole thing, do you think that's necessary?
No, I would hope not.
Well, isn't that what we're talking about doing here?
Yes, I brought it to your attention so that you understand we don't have an ability to require its payment.
Well, what I would recommend is that we leave that money in. There aren't that many tax exempts that pay that service charge. Many of them pay many service charge. In other words, one tax exempt entity may pay 20 $400 amounts or whatever. And I would think that if we simply put in a cover letter stating the lay of the land,
Yeah.
we would get a lot of that money in.
Yeah, I think so too.
I think it would be a good job for the new development person to work on.
Yeah.
You know, I think historically, hasn't Marquardt Manor been pretty good about making that payment?
That's not part of this tax exempt service charge. There is a separate fee called the payment in lieu of taxes. And that's on a completely different line.
All right.
And yes, Marquardt pays and Heritage Homes pays
Right, okay.
considerably more than this. That's
Yeah.
about $200,000 that comes
Right,
in.
right, but that's not part of that.
Correct.
Well, I would just propose that we leave it in and do our best to leave it to the civic goodwill of these entities, and some won't pay and we would not pursue them.
But for now, we're gonna count it as a revenue.
I think so. I would.
I would too.
In, because it's listed, if you will, as a service charge, which is part of the tweaking of it, which is not a it's not the allowable. I guess I would suggest that we move it as part of the page 1 payment in lieu of taxes and just allow it to be included in that account so that it's not referred to as a service charge, that
Okay.
it's a payment in lieu of taxes, which is all voluntary.
I think that's
That's
an
good.
excellent idea.
Yeah. I would go with,
That's not enough
our
room.
finance chairperson, our finance director. Your recommendation, I'll go with that. Move it to the tax exempt. Payment in lieu of.
That account on page 1 is 0144-1133.
Yeah.
Mr. Stevens, do you,
Motion or what? How do we deal with that?
we can make a motion.
Yeah.
Do you need, let's just do it
Yeah,
to be
I'll
clean.
make the motion.
Okay,
Ken.
I would make a motion that what previously was the tax exempt service charge be incorporated into the revenue section, payments in lieu of taxes, and that we recognize that they're voluntary and that, some conceivably might not come in.
I'll second that motion.
All right, any further discussion? All right, let's vote. Mr. Smith,
Aye?
Mr. Berg?
Aye.
Aye. Mr. Limpy?
Aye.
Okay. Before we go any further, Mr. Stevens, do you have an expenses total?
On the backside,
A current one based on what we've done? Oh, it's on the back? Oh, I see it.
well,
Thank you.
yeah, I mean, it's got everything.
Yep, I see it.
Well, with one conversation that we haven't had yet on, page 9, the assessor contract services. So if you want to cover that, and then we could look at what the total is.
Okay.
So the assessor contract services is, as I had indicated to you all, was out to bid, and we had 3 responses to that. I needed to get clarification from the low bid that they're offering to us was in fact the right
Real?
number.
The real number.
Because it was considerably less than what I'm currently charged by, in fact, the same company. And I got that confirmation from them today. And so I feel comfortable that I'm not going to ask twice. I know what their mistake is, but they are confirming that they are willing to give it to us for that price. And so I'm not going to correct their math. They gave me a confirmation, and I would say the 136 was incorporating about a 5%, 6% increase over what we're actually paying now. But I have a hard number at that 83,280 that you see on the sheet. So I would recommend that you approve a reduction in the cost of assessor contract services to the 52,720 amount.
I'll make that motion.
Any further discussion? All right, no discussion. Let's take a vote. Mr. Berg?
Aye.
I'll say aye. Lampy?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye. Aye.
Okay, so then how many,
Just
what's
to
the,
clarify, that 17,400 now is not a, with what we're doing, is that counts as a savings or a reduction? How is that being treated with what we did on that decision?
Okay, so if we look on the back side of the piece of paper you're looking at, the 17.4 has an influence on the finance com budget impact to fund balance number. So the 719,163, now we can subtract 17,400, doing the math on the fly, to get to 701,763. Okay, that's the influence on the fund balance. That is an income account though, so my formula does not include that in the expenditure restraint total that is below there. We started with an original amount of 12,771 acceptable allowance for spending, and we have subtracted our spending an additional 97,000 based on the front side of this piece of paper, the expense accounts only, giving us a total of 109,864 under expenditure restraint totals.
All right, all right.
So we have reduced the amount we were going to use of fund balance from 791,000 to 701,000.
Yes.
So, okay, almost 100,000. Getting there.
But what are you showing then for a Fund One type of levy at these numbers? What is it going to be on percentage increase on the levy?
3.8.
3.8 right now.
Yes, that's on page 5,
Yeah.
moving it from 10,460 to 10,860. It's a 3.8% increase on the tax levy from general fund.
All right.
Page
So-
5, yellow highlighted down the bottom right.
If we're going to reduce that 3.8% general levy increase, it seems we have a couple of ways to go. We can either continue to cut expenditures, or we can use more fund balance. Previously, we were at the 30% mark, which is the high mark of our policy. If we went to 29%, that could take take us pretty far, I think, at reducing our 3.8% increase. I don't see any other choices, but either reduce expenditures or use more fund balance in order to reduce the 3.8.
It was 30.4, so
Uh-huh.
you could see what is it right at 30 as well.
Or even, yeah. I'm in favor of coming in at that high point, 29 or so, because this is already collected tax money. So I'd rather use collected tax money before going back to the public and asking for more.
Let me update with the 97,093 additional reduction of expenses. The unassigned fund balance percentage is 31%.
Okay,
Way over.
31%. So what would happen if right now we're going to increase the general levy by 400,000. What if we increase the general levy by only 200,000 and use additional 200,000 in fund balance? Where would that bring us on our percentages if we used an additional 200,000 in fund balance?
I gotta go 2 different places to give you the number of your increase first. Hold on. I forgot to bring my mouse. Okay, so we're subtracting 200,000 from taxes. That is a 1.9% increase from 10,460 to 10,660.
To
So
10,
it's a 1.9%.
say 1.9% to 10.
Yeah, so you'd be just adding 200,000
Right.
additional is a drop from 3.8 to 1.9, effectively right in half.
So essentially that brings us to the $1 million additional levy, which is this one right here. If we just do $200,000 more, and then where's that bring us in fund balance?
Yeah. back to about the 30.4.
Ah, so it makes me curious though. So if we use $200,000 more of fund balance, we're at 30.4. And we're at this additional levy of 1 million. So I can't help but ask, are you all interested in going lower than 30.4?
Davis, we had some examples of subtracting by, I mean, we talked about the library fund having 918,000. They had 400,000. They had big numbers on fund balance. We were only trying to take a little bit from it, and we made the case for it, and there was no appetite for it on your part. You don't have a problem taking more money out of our fund balance, but you'll leave alone healthy fund balances on the part of the library.
Well, actually, the amount of money that we reduced the library is bringing their fund balance amounts right about the 28-29%, which is where we're trying to get ours. So we're asking of them to keep their fund balance where we would also like to keep ours.
Well, I might as well bring this up now, because we didn't actually talk about percentages at the meeting on Wednesday. But what I would, and this is something that obviously we're not going to be able to address tonight, and I feel it's disrespectful for me to make the same motion again in front of the same body and somehow hope that the passage of time is going to cause people to change their vote. But what we're doing is we're making a recommendation to the city council. And on November 18th, we're going to have a broader common council discussion, and we are in a position to be able to make changes to the budget at that meeting. Between now and then, what I would like to do is, we spent almost all of our time talking Wednesday about the operational fund balance, which is a separate account, and I'm not going to rehash the arguments there, but that would have been one option for the library to have made up for an additional $25,000 in cuts to the city's subsidy. Now, that was not approved. But this is my point. In the discussion relating to the 3 different library accounts, we spent almost no time talking about the library endowment and trust fund account. Little wonder we spent very little time talking about it, because there is very little information for us about it, except we know that there is over $900,000 in that fund balance. Now, my point is this. What I would like to request is that we receive from the library a specific delineation of that $900,000 fund balance, because that is off the table only if you accept the fact that every aspect of that $900,000 is designated in a manner where it cannot be used for operational purposes. Operational purposes being a very broad account, and including such things as acquisition of library materials and many other things. Now, you look at their budget on page 84, and you'll see an example of how the amount of that quite substantial endowment fund did not come exclusively from bequests or donations or things that might have come with a specific regulation prohibiting use in for operational purposes. And you'll notice that that entire budget on page 84 indicates that there is $22,000 of interest investments that flow into that fund balance account. That is not precluded funding for operational purposes. There's nothing about that interest that is regulated to preclude it from being used for the myriad of operational uses there in the library. And over the course of years, interest has accrued to the point where a huge amount of this endowment account came from
Interest.
interest. Now, in addition to that, there are undoubtedly donations that were made or bequests that were received that were not limited in the use for operational purposes. But we can't debate that. We can't talk about it because we have no information. Now, the numbers that Alderman Davis just cited is a comparison between the percentages of our city undesignated fund balance and the operational fund balance of the library. It does not include the percentage that is available for possible use within that endowment account. And what I'm asking for is that we get the accurate information so that we can make a reasoned decision on this original motion to cut $25,000 from the city donation, which presumably would be made up by the use of some of the fund balance.
Mayor, did you have some comments?
Oh, if I'm reading Mr. Smith, he's talking about the two different funds. The endowment fund could be used for the building construction part of it. So there is a $4 million loan out there in the city. So
What I'm interested.
are you suggesting to tap
No.
into the endowment fund for that? Is that what you're suggesting?
No.
What I'm talking about is, I'm talking about finding out what the corpus of that $900,000 is.
You know,
Where it came from and what its permissible uses are.
what the restrictions are on that.
If in fact there's an additional $900,000 of fund balance and we don't even know how it fits into the considerations that we're trying to
Yeah.
discuss, then how can we compare use of our fund balance with use of their fund balance when we have not got a complete picture of their fund balance?
Yeah. Yeah.
Then we can make a reasoned decision. Right now, we don't
Yeah.
have that information.
Mr. Stevens, would you happen to have an answer for that?
Sure. Let me just highlight to you that the restriction is for building related. And if the most recent bequest had come in before the actual project, we wouldn't think anything of using it to construct the building. So too, the loan is part of the building construction. We spent $6.8 million on that library, and we owe $4.1 million. Ms. Davis started by saying we can't do anything on the debt levy side, and I would suggest to you that actually you could.
Tell us more.
You have an
Exactly.
endowment fund for the library.
Yep.
That could be used to apply to the debt of the library construction.
Oh, to the debt of the library.
Exactly.
I can go with that.
And
Peg mentioned the other day that she was anticipating a $60,000 donation, and it was $375,000.
well, all I'm saying is, we are looking at, for every conceivable means of making our budget affordable, both on the tax rate issue, and we are also trying to determine what is the financially responsible way forward to balance the interests of the taxpayers with the amount that we feel we can use from our own fund balance.
So,
Now, however we can turn around and reduce the levy is going to be an advantage to us. And if we can get contribution for that borrowing, then I think that that is something we should look at. I was simply thinking that what we would do is reduce the contribution $25,000 for the city contribution to
800.
from 810 to $785,000 was my motion.
Right.
And so, anyway,
can I ask a question? So that endowment fund, it's within our purview to allocate money from it?
Say that probably invite a legal challenge.
Yeah.
Because
No,
we-
you'd have to have the library board, because it's their account. So the library board would
Right.
have to.
So,
Of some writing agreements between the city and the library that go back quite some time that basically are like, we have the public funds will raise, the city will have these taxable bonds that they will contribute. So basically to erase that arrangement, I think would invite a lawsuit at least.
so then help me understand, Mr. Stevens, what you're suggesting as a mechanism.
I am suggesting that we ask the library board for a contribution to the debt levy. You know, their principal and interest on the debt for the year 2026 is $200,631.
I think it's a non-starter.
They're not going to go for it?
Yeah, and there's really no legal basis for us to go that route. They would just
well,
hold
I
up the
think
piece of
there are
paper
a
with the
lot,
city.
there are a lot less confrontational approaches to getting a fair contribution from their fund balances than taking that route. But I have been talking with other aldermen about the issue of debt that we're overwhelmingly subsidizing. I'm looking at this from the point of view of what is a fair approach? And I didn't think it was draconian when I made a motion to reduce 25,000 from our contribution to what is a substantially healthier budget than the one that we're dealing with.
So one of my reasons why I didn't support that at the time is, as I said, with the current $40,000 reduction, they're at 28.5% of their fund balance. But the next thing is, the library director is not wrong in her concern that that donation or that amount that we are donating is not going to come back. That's probably a fairly accurate assessment and so she's going to then start to eat into that fund balance pretty rapidly, is what I'm thinking in future years.
Yeah, that's,
Well, let me tell you, I'll tell you, the posture of our fund balance is, we're talking in the $700,000 realm. We're watching a huge percentage of our fund balance that's undesignated, that's available within the scope of our designated range. And in one fell swoop, with the future years looking more problematic to me than this year is, we are watching that fund balance evaporate faster than the library, could possibly envision.
I guess
Yeah.
my response to that is, I hear your concern, but we have been using the fund balance for many years now. And while in it, as you all had know, it hasn't made a dent. Now, I understand that the budgeting is a little more precise this year and that we can expect to use some of that fund balance. But it is I feel like our duty to at least use 29 to 30% of it. Because otherwise, we are outside of the policy that we have written.
But again, Alderperson Davis, so you're pointing out about how it is a manageable number, but again, historically, we never went into numbers like 700,000 in taking from a fund balance on any kind of a recurring basis because of the fear that it's going to obviously dip into a balance that's going to become unsustainable. And what we have done, because of Alderperson Smith and our council, our finance committee agreeing to it, we've decided to look at our revenues that we put into salary and benefits, and we've looked at the expenditures, and we've realized that there's a discrepancy that we can actually budget for and use those savings because of historically being a difference, significant. And we're using that to help us fund some of the positions that we actually went ahead and did this year. So I'm nothing but proud of the approach we took.
Absolutely, I
But
agree with
going
that.
forward, though, because of what we've done, those contributions into fund balance are going to dry up.
I understand.
And they're not going to be there. So if we keep dipping into that amount, thinking that that's there again next year for 800,000, 700,000, we will be in for a rude awakening.
All right, then we're left with two choices. We need to cut the fire position, we need to cut the police position, or we need to raise taxes.
Or we need to incrementally do what we were trying to do the other day. And what we have is a $785,000 contribution we were looking at giving to the library instead of 810,000. That 25,000 is a small comparative number, but that, along with a few other examples, was going to start building up some dollar amount that we thought would be sustainable and justified without impacting on any individual budget. And that's the logic of what we were trying to do.
I'm with you on the logic. Tell me what other cuts besides the $25,000 you're suggesting.
I'd be happy to try to look at some of those. Are we going to be moving through those, come back and talk about?
Are you looking at the ones at the bottom of the page?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's not a lot of cuts there.
No.
Okay, talk to us about some of them. So the first one is Main Street programs.
Well, first of all, that's going to go in the other direction.
Right.
What I'm interested in doing is using the, right now there is a $10,000 revenue surplus in the tourism budget. And what I would like to do for just 1 year now, I don't know what our agreement is going to be with the Main Street community program, but we had a 5-year agreement.
Yeah.
And I think that that would be a reasonable way to go. But whether it's 5,000, 5 years or 1 year, I think what we need to do is to take into account that for 10 years, we have not increased or adjusted for inflation, the contribution that we're making to the Main Street group.
You're right.
And I believe that if we took half of the revenue surplus in the tourism budget and added it for 1 year, doesn't lock us in. Maybe that's a fair number for the longer term. We'll talk about that as we look at the contract issue, but we have to do something for this year. And I would like to use that margin in that tourism budget and add $5,000 to the Main Street program budget.
I'll second that. I don't think it's enough, but it's better than nothing.
You wanted to use how much?
5,000 of the tourism surplus revenues over expenses in tourism.
Could we make it designated towards something that Main Street programs does?
Yeah, I thought
Main
it
Street.
would be possible to,
Could it be for,
simply make that as a line item or what, I'm not in my tourism budget here right now. Huh? 86.
like, for
okay.
instance, I would definitely not want it to go to any administrative costs or any event costs. I would want it to go to grants for our businesses because I think it's your intent to help the local businesses. And I don't want to subsidize operations.
And a huge part of the budget is that, but you know, the money in this budget is fungible, but I mean, I would say, anyway, what I'm thinking is, we have line items in the expense portion of the tourism budget.
Yeah,
And I think, that we could add $5,000 to, and just a new line item for Main Street program.
If you will add the word grants, building grants, or something that designates it to actually helping the businesses,
Yep.
then I will go along with that.
Okay, and that could be used to fund grants that are already present in their
Sure.
yes,
budget.
it could.
I just
Okay.
want it to go through the Main Street programs to the local
Main Street
businesses.
program grants.
Well, first of all, we had a motion by Alderperson Smith for 5,000.
Yep.
For Main
But-
Street
but now
program
we're
grants.
clarifying what it's gonna be
Yep, so
titled and where it's gonna come from.
we need a second for that.
All right, I'll second it.
Any further discussion? All right, let's take a vote. Mr. Smith,
Aye.
Mr. Burke,
Aye.
I'll vote aye. Mr. Limpy,
Hi.
Okay, well, I didn't get too far with cuts on that one, did I?
no, no cuts.
Okey doke.
Are we on the?
And there's another one where I'm also not gonna help you out on cuts. But I believe that we should start our police,
Well, wait,
uh,
right
the-
there, we had that,
well,
it was tied.
Huh?
What got it? What they-
yeah, but what I'm trying to do is to come back to this, we have
Just making sure.
we discussed the possibility of bringing the police department captain on January 1st, rather than March 1st. It has a cost to do so of $23,421. I would like to make the motion that we begin that, the employment for that new captain position January 1st, and add the additional $23,421 to that salaries budget.
Where's it gonna come from? Where's the money coming from? Could it come from contingency?
Well, I'm not
That's gonna add,
I'm not proposing, I mean, actually, that's going to help us on our expenditure restraint formula.
It's an additional expense.
It's an additional expense and we're gonna try to make that up elsewhere. I'm gonna help you out down
Yeah.
the road,
yeah,
but where it's gonna come from is just an additional expense within our broader budget.
Yes, Mr. Mayor?
And Chief Brower had mentioned to me, he didn't think he'd be able to hire that early.
He doesn't think.
So
he-
if you want to start earlier, February 1st, but he didn't think January 1st would be feasible.
So he's happy with March? He'd be satisfied?
He was fine with that, but if you want to bump it up a month, yeah, he just thought January 1st might be early. But
If
yeah.
if you want to do it February 1st, just making a suggestion.
if the police chief is satisfied with a March start,
I agree.
What's that? I couldn't hear you.
Chief Brower is satisfied with a March start. He doesn't think he'd be able to locate and
I thought you
hire.
said he was,
He didn't think January. I just suggested if you want to start earlier to make it a February 1st rather than a January 1st, but that's up for the four of you to decide.
if that's something that he can fill the position in February 1st, then I think that should be the appropriate start date.
Yeah.
So instead of the 23,000, I guess you divide that in half.
Right,
11,710.
yeah.
whatever
But
that turns out to be.
Again, there's not a second to the motion, but at the moment, we're trying to subtract, this is adding to our expense.
Well, I'm
Uh,
gonna.
I know you have a few on your Alderperson Smith, and I'm typically, on board with some of that logic, but, there's a few here where I think you may be sensitive to cutting, and I'm not on board with that.
Well, okay, we'll just,
If you take it out of contingency, I'll support it.
well, that's one, but I'm gonna also talk to you about the transit budget, and I think we can see how that'll work. In any event, I guess I would modify the motion for a February 1st starting date with whatever the number was Mark mentioned.
11,710.
Does that need a second?
Yes, I need a
Yes.
second.
I would second that.
Okay,
I think the intent is well regarded. The need for that position is obvious. The reality is we've got our chief on board with the date that we've at least tentatively proposed. And the areas of trying to find that money in order to make that happen are all up for some discussion. And I know one of yours is the transit subsidy. And I've had a
well,
lot
we're
of.
not on that
I know
right
we're not
now.
on, so I, because of that reason, I just feel, and there's other things we're looking at that contingency for, potentially, even a subtraction down to 75,000 to save us and bring down our Fund One levy, to bring it down further by making that 75 versus 105. Those kind of numbers are gonna bring down the levy in a way that I'm favorable on, but I don't wanna, subtract from our subsidy on transit.
Well, I don't know. I don't want to get caught in between who said what, but,
So-
it was in my conversation with the chief, there was no indication that there would have been a difficulty in filling that position and that he was, very favorable, very thankful for the idea. I told him that I was going to make the motion to try to move that to a January 1st start date. He had every opportunity in the world to say, well, I can't possibly fill it that soon. He did not. And he gave me the indication he was very appreciative of the fact that he would have that officer on board.
All right.
But
So we have a
months are gonna
first,
by.
we have a first with Mr. Smith, a second with Mr. Lampy. Let's take another comment from Mr. Lampy.
So a reason that I liked seeing both the captain and the fire inspector, the marshal, represented for most of a full year is I do think that provides a better picture of how much these positions actually cost and essentially puts them as a placeholder so that we're not accidentally buying a position for the following year, but only representing it half price in the year that we approve it. So I was definitely in favor of seeing these positions extended to almost all the year, the entire year, because I think this gives us a truer picture of what the budget actually is going to be in future years.
All right, any other discussion? All right, let's take a vote. Mr. Smith?
And so what we're voting on is
The increase of
modified to February 1st?
February 1st, 11,710.
One additional comment before we,
Yeah.
is that $11,000 has the distinct possibility of being funded through fund balance. And if we are trying to do anything, that's a recurring cost, which we are going to try to fund in some way, and we don't have the dollars already allocated for it. So it's going to be another problematic type of coverage. I think we'll have to discuss that next year, but why aggravate the fund balance issue?
All right, Mr. Smith? Mr. Berg?
No.
I'll vote no. Mr. Lampy? So that fails.
Okay, moving on down. These are actually gonna be for the idea of saving money.
Yay.
We had, Mr. Stevens gave out a new transit budget. We had discussed the fact that as we diminish purchase transportation, it would have an effect on the grants that would be coming in. And so he did a hypothetical, And I looked at the hypothetical from the perspective of the city's local share. And I've done quite a bit of, work looking into, ridership issues, alternatives that would have allowed us to, modify some of our, service, times. And I don't want to get into every hour of every day, but we have 7-day coverage, modified hours on different days depending upon demand. We have, up to 6 cabs on the road at any given time. And if you look at the numbers, I got them. I'm just scrounging for them. Well, anyway, I'll go from memory. If you look at what is possible in terms of savings by modifying our purchase transportation and using as a hypothetical this markup that Mark gave us, I believe that we can cut the city's local share from 75,000 to 60,000. And he's got the exact amount of state aid that would be forthcoming from the state and from the federal government based upon a purchase transportation of $965,000. Now, you look and the amount budgeted for purchase transportation in 2025 was only $28,000 more than we're talking about with these reductions. I've also taken a look at, and the Transit Commission this evening was looking at the possibility of modifying the fares. Megan gave us the comparables on every category in probably 30 different communities served by 3 different service providers, including Transportation Transit, Inc. And what I have found is I am hesitant to anticipate very much additional area for us to increase. We're probably in the higher 1/3 on fares statewide. There are a couple of categories where we probably are under. We can modify fares a bit. The amount of revenues that we're anticipating, which I think is very realistic, the request for 2026, and I'm not sure who made this, but I annualized all of the numbers relating to 2025 service, and we are right at $345,000 this year. The last rate increases or fare increases that we had were in April of 2023. There was a very short blip of downturn. Typically, when you raise fares, you can expect possibly an adverse effect on ridership. But the fact is, in 2025, ridership is up. We're going to have annualized. I mean, I don't want to say it's set in stone, but if the last 3 months are on average, we're going to have between 92 and 93,000 rides that we're providing. That, with the fares that we have, will produce the income of 360,000. I think that is very realistic.
So, Mr. Smith, what are you proposing then? Did you want to make a motion?
Yes, I think that this hypothetical number, just used for purposes of filling in all the rest of the information, is absolutely spot on. And I believe that we can cut the city share from 75,000 to $60,000.
So
I
are,
think we can maintain service. I think ridership will remain high, and I do not believe we have to substantially modify the fares.
sounds like a motion to cut that by $15,000. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
So this would be the city share.
Yep.
Okay, any further discussion then? Yes?
So the handout that we got from City Finance looks substantially different than the one that we were looking at when we were looking at numbers the other day. So I guess I want to slow down and verify that what we have on the page here is something that City Finance is standing behind, because we dropped the estimated purchase on transportation. That dropped from 1.12 million down to 0.93. Balance, the expected fund balance change deviated significantly from a negative 103,000 to a positive 1.9. So I want to be careful that we are proceeding with valid assumptions, because I offered a very large cut to purchase transportation based on what looked like a zeroing fund balance last time.
Mark?
I stand behind the new numbers that you have. The original numbers were projections that Megan put forth. And so I put my pencil to it, and you can see that modified in the 2025 column, first of all, had an influence then on what the future holds. I don't even think that we'll have to, in the current year, you can see that our city local share is projected or in the budget currently at 93,000. I don't think I'll need that much of a transfer. This is literally something that happens at the end of the year, effectively into the new year. It's a paper transfer, journal entry from one account to another account. I don't see why there's any need for us to move the 93,000. I think we can do it for the 60 that I've got listed on the sheet. The 1.12 million for purchase transportation was her estimate for the 2025. So she just carried it over into the new year, 2026. Part of what I felt compelled, you all wanted to get rid of what was a perceived $90,000 reduction that was estimated between the combined total of 26 and 25. And, so I was working backwards, if you will, to get rid of that $90,000. It was very easy. Half of, or the $30,000 estimate for 25 disappeared by just reworking the numbers. As I had mentioned to you, the state and federal mass transit aids are percentages of the purchase transportation. So as that goes down, so too the revenue does. But I am in agreement with Mr. Smith's comment on the cab revenue. I have a more exact number than his 345, but we're in the same ballpark at 342,973. And also the 60,000 was literally a plug number backwards. That's the last number that I changed on the sheet, because it was like, why move 93,000 if we don't need to move 93,000? Just move the 60,000 in order to make a break even for the year. And for the future year, Megan and I had conversation about cab revenue specifically, and this is probably where Transit Authority was talking about in their meeting earlier today. But she and I are of the opinion that agency rates can go up. That's charges that we make to the two county human services departments. So we'd be charging a different government slightly higher rate than what they're paying now, which is still considerably the cheapest game in town for agencies to pay us to put their clients on a shared ride taxi than any individual rides that they would have to afford that are considerably more expensive for them. So the 360, I think, is within the ballpark without necessarily impacting any of the other fees that through the conversation I had with Megan, we didn't bother to go with anything else because we felt comfortable with the 360 projection, but maybe tourism decides to raise rates. And that would help even more so the city local share dropping. But I felt comfortable that the 60,000 presented to you a break even.
Mr. Stevens, is there a corresponding general one fund that is where the shared city portion comes from?
Yes, and so on the bottom of the sheet that I gave you,
I don't know if I got.
page,
Oh, that one.
on
Yes,
this sheet,
yes.
page 30
Okay,
is where it's located.
thank you.
It's kind of a standalone, gets lost
Yes,
after the public service enterprises.
I see it. Yes, okay, thank you so much. So remind me, where are we? We've got a motion and a second.
Now, the motion is to reduce the city's share from 75 to 60,000.
Right, and I guess I'd like a clarification as to what happened to the 90 that we passed the other night. Does that vanish in the ether? Do we have to readjust that to the new amount of purchase transportation represented in the budget? Do we have to adjust that further?
The 90 I felt was my directive to try to get rid of it. And by revisiting this page, I got rid of it.
But as a finance committee, do we have to adopt this number?
I would suggest that, yes, the revised transit system budget in its entirety needs to be approved.
All right, is there a motion for that?
I-
Or what, can we
Well,
do that at the end though, right?
Yeah, you have a motion on the floor.
Sure. Thank you.
My specific question is in order for Alder Smith's request to be valid, do we have to adopt this budget as part of that? Or is this something that'll just, you'll just work the numbers and we'll see a fresh copy? I'm worried because we have an expense entry here too, that we've targeted in a previous conversation.
Well, if you're asking me, is it premature to make these changes now? Is that? In my opinion, if we were to take every, well, in the finance column, if we were to adopt this as a new budget for the Transit Commission can make this work to conform to what it is that's here.
Right, but I'm looking for guidance specifically if should we adopt this budget simultaneous with a motion, or should we do that separately?
I think separate,
Um,
because we'll be doing budget on the last line item, isn't it? To approve the 2026 budget for adoption.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think it might be, I mean, it's just a small component of that broader budget to approve the current motion on the floor. We could do that, or I could withdraw it, and we could just simply make a motion to adopt this budget as it is, because all the numbers are just fine.
I'd actually prefer moving your item through. It's cleaner.
Further discussion, we've got a first and a second.
On what's the topic?
The topic is reducing the transit local share from 75,000 to 60,000.
Yeah. All right. In looking at the sheet that was given by Mark, it's showing that the actual city subsidy in 24 was 45,000, but it's also showing the actual of a fund balance negative of roughly $52,000. That's a little over a year ago. I know people just like you do, and the people I know are people that are sensitive to that amount being charged, because Watertown has demographically a large number of senior citizens and people on fixed income, and a lot of people that are of average income type background. They qualify and they benefit from a discounted type of fare. And I know a person today that got to work by being picked up, and they rely on that each day to get to work. And that dollar amount is significant in their mind as far as making that affordable transportation for people in our city. So for us to aggravate that and to try to save 15,000, when we already got an example a little over a year ago of a fund balance negative of $52,000. I mean, and we
That
have.
was intentional.
It was intentional, Mr. Berg, to
That's-
drop
that
the
was-
fund balance.
Yeah, that was what they tried to do.
Yeah.
It was to use fund balance that was available. It wasn't because of,
Okay, well, they did it in order to dip into the fund balance, but now you have $82,000 for a balance right now. And that's not a, I mean, we've talked about fund balance a lot tonight, but that's not a large dollar amount that you can rely on as far as getting through the uncertainty of this type. There's a fair amount of volatility to these budgets, it seems like, with the transit. And if you look at it over a period of time, the volatility would seem to make the case for having a decent fund balance to take care of uncertainty that plays out in a given year. And I just don't want to be on the side for people that benefit from this program, and there are many. And Alderperson Smith knows because of his, what is the number that you're saying are using the program right now? The number of people?
Well, I've calculated that on an annual basis from 2025, we'll carry over 92,000 people.
All right. Now that is a very significant type of benefit and program. And I just don't want to be on the side of being skimpy on a subsidy that actually, I understand why we're moving it to the 75. It was at 93, and now we're being told by our finance director that that's probably too high, but that's too high for this year.
Okay.
We don't know the uncertainty, and I would be on the side of saying it's not a risk worth taking for me. Other
Okay.
areas we can save, I'm on the side of other areas we can find. I don't want to do it here.
I would suggest we take a vote, maybe. Have we all had a chance to speak? All right. So, Mr. Smith?
Aye.
Mr. Lampy? I'll vote aye. Mr. Berg?
No.
Okay, let's move on.
Okay, well,
So that does affect ERP, right?
to respond to Mr. Lampy, I would appreciate if somebody approved the modifications on Fund 13 Transit.
I make a motion that we approve the entire transit budget as presented by, or the revised one presented by Mr. Stevens.
Second,
Second.
any discussion? All right, let's take a vote. Mr. Smith? Mr. Lampy?
Aye.
I'll vote aye. Mr. Berg?
No.
Okay, and, well, the only other thing I would be in favor of doing is, cutting the, contingency fund.
Good.
Well, I would also like to revisit the Crossroads entry that we skipped over.
Oh, I skipped something. Okay, you go ahead and do that one then.
So Crossroads is a rental assistance group. Hopefully they reached out to you in the last week or so. I
Yeah, they
believe
did.
that- Okay. I am in favor of putting this on our typical charitable schedule for $3,000 a year. I believe that this is an organization that directly addresses one of the things that the council has been asked for a number of times, which is a stance, something's tangible to help housing, especially people who are at risk of being unhoused in Watertown. This is an established organization. It has donations that really come from a variety of different sources. United Way is a major contributor, indicates that that is a fairly neutral and responsible purveyor of funds. I think it definitely keeps us out of any favoritism for any of the groups that have been approaching us for housing, while at the same time allowing us to make a substantive step toward that direction and really an answer that we believe that this is a need and something that this is a group that is already addressing this problem.
Motion?
Motion to fund them for $3,000 in 2026.
I'll second it.
Do have any?
Get out of contingency.
Thank
if you
you.
want.
So we got a motion and a second, and the motion is to fund Crossroads from 3,000 and then deduct 3,000 from contingency.
Yeah, and I've already reiterated that same point as Alderperson Lampy did, and I, for the same reason. I actually have seen the benefit of it. I have an example of a tenant that had some issues with health, and because of the health, he wasn't working, and because of not working, he was at risk of non-payment. And Crossroads, sent me a check that obviously paid, in this case, half of his rent. So it obviously helped that example of a person. So I know it works. I know that with a lot of landlords that they're charging probably obviously more than they should. And there's a lot of people that have marginal incomes and have a hard time making payment. And this program is very beneficial. We've seen Crossroads in Watertown over a long period of time consistently provide benefit as a nonprofit that does a lot of good. So why not? I mean, even 3,000 seems on the lower end, but anything is better than nothing. I'd be in favor of 5,000, but
All right.
3,000 is fine.
So we got a first and a second. If there's no further discussion,
How much was it?
3,000.
3,000.
All right, let's go ahead and take a vote. Mr. Lampy?
Aye.
I'll vote aye. Mr. Berg?
Aye.
Mr. Smith? Okay.
Alderperson Smith was implying an interest in adjusting the contingency amount.
Yeah, but I didn't want to jump the gun. Anything else? No? Okay. Yeah, I would,
25.
there are.
Our mayor has something.
We had 82,000 put in for this year, not one dime was touched from it. It's there in case. That money is just there for emergencies. So if anything's gonna be taken out of there, I would confer with you guys first. Anything major, we're looking for $2,000 or something is one thing, so to cut that, we hope is not to use it anyway.
We,
Just,
we have, had many budgets in the recent past where the contingent account has been 50,000 or barely over that. I suspect that, it may,
it was a goal of Mr. Stevens, just in case something happens. If there is a boiler that goes out or, the health department's got one, it's like gonna be like 17,000, but it was the idea, maybe got some money there, wouldn't have to be borrowed. You mentioned about like the voting poll, so it's something that comes up, even the things could be borrowed for, but we can take it out of that fund instead. I would try my best not to use it, not one dime was used this year of it, I believe, so.
yeah.
But let me give another reminder why we can take from the contingency account this year, because we've done a decent job of subtracting from our expenditure restraint program limitation. And right now, Mark, what is the amount that we're under the expenditure restraint?
124,864.
All right, so we can actually, I mean, we've talked about this fund balance and how you can't use it, but in the end, if those dollars are under, if we're under the fund balance a limitation of 100 and whatever thousand, and if we did have a hypothetical problem and we needed 75,000 out of fund balance, and we are under what we're allowed, those dollars should then be allowed for us to use fund balance in that example and not impact or be a concern. Knowing that, I think we can afford to justify a decent amount of subtraction to bring the levy down and to make it a smaller number.
And all of that is very positive from my point of view. I'm just wondering, since this will drop us even more under the expenditure restraint limit, how adversely does that affect us?
It influences your future year
Right.
because you have reduced what your maximum spend
Right.
growth is. You will reduce then the future year's maximum expenditure growth.
Right.
Yep, Mayor?
I would actually prefer, so you guys put in fund balance, if you can put it on
Contingency.
the contingency, because it would allow us, we're gonna really cut into what we can spend the following years. So as long as you leave in the contingency, we're spending it, but it can go back. That's the hard part with the expenditure restraint. You guys asked to stay inside. Now you're under 120. I would rather you do the opposite and make a motion, make 124,000, go back into the contingency to every dime that it could. Mr. Stevens actually keeps it 0.05% under what we could, just in case of a little bit more that we could spend, just to make sure, but it would be very
Strategic.
bad to have that much just sitting there that we could spend. I'd rather you put in there, I put it in the contingency account, let it sit.
Well,
If something comes up, we gotta spend it, I will go to the finance and ask them first before we spend anything out of it. That's my promise. Okay? Assuming it's not like $100 or something, but it's some large amount. I'd rather you put that in. I know it doesn't look good coming for the fund balance, look like a lot's coming out, but if you got over 220,000 in there, it's gonna go right back in the fund balance.
yeah. Well,
So please think about that, what it does for the future, for expenditure restraints. We need to spend all of it. Not to spend it, we need to put it like we are spending it. So I'm pleading with you, please put all of it into
you know,
the contingency account.
Yeah.
Okay?
right. But we're trying to, right now, today, we're trying to adjust the levy down where we can. We're trying to find examples that'll reduce it down and bring it to a lower number. We understand the plus and minus on it, but
You don't have to increase the levy, Mr. Berg.
what's that?
You don't have to increase the tax levy.
I want to
it's-
reduce it.
You can reduce if you want, but as far as what looks like we're taking out for the fund balance, that number is gonna change 120,000, but we're not gonna, doesn't mean we're gonna use it. They go right back into fund
That'd be
balance.
fine.
Yeah,
That's okay with me.
that's what I'm hoping.
Say,
Please make the motion to put that money back in the contingency account, every dime of it.
because what you're saying is, well, it's strategic because there won't be room for growth for more positions in the future.
It's 3%, so you'd be looking, I mean, if you have 120, it's $1,200, $1,300. I mean,
And if we don't spend it, then it goes to fund balance, which actually means we should feel comfortable taking a little more out of fund balance
No.
to reduce taxes.
yeah, so please put the 124,000 back in the contingency account and I will go to you.
You're preferring that the contingent be brought up to the maximum of the ERP expenditure limit, and you're saying that's 124,000.
Mhm.
That's,
And then to address the tax issue, you had talked about,
maybe 200,000 or,
levy to $1 million increase,
or
and where does this leave us now?
ask Mr. Stevens. So basically right now we're increasing the general levy by 400,000. I had suggested decreasing the general levy increase to 200,000 and taking 200,000 more from the fund balance. And now he said would bring us right at 30.4 at the time. Or 30.4.
The only thing we've done is a $15,000 difference. So,
So roughly about the same.
yeah.
So I would even, just for the playing with numbers sake, be interested in 100,000 more, just to play with numbers, to see if that gets us to 30 or even a little slightly under 30.
Keep in mind, we probably won't use it.
Right,
It'll look that
right.
way, but we're not.
It's actually a good strategic move, I think.
So please don't, when it looks like we're gonna eat that much off fund balance, doesn't mean we're going to, because if you're gonna put out 220, I think there's 105 in there, so you're looking at 229,000 in
Yep.
that contingency account, that's gonna go right back in there.
That I understand, and
No.
that makes sense, but what is the nominal amount that we are now talking about using from fund balance?
Okay, well, originally I said 200,000, so that would be 1 million on the what if tax levy sheet. And I think he's doing the math to see what an additional 100,000 would be.
Yeah, I just gotta add in our $15,000 ad here.
While he's doing that, I was struggling to think what the principle should be here. Because I don't want to be deciding, oh, I think people can take that much more tax increase just arbitrarily. So in my mind, the principle is that staying between 25 to 30%, even if that means 29.5, to me, I needed a principle to base the decision on.
There's nothing wrong with the argument of where that would leave us this year. The question is, are you comfortable with that amount of fund balance being
Yeah,
used in
yeah,
a single year, much for recurring expenses
right.
when we have difficult years coming?
Yeah.
Now,
Well, as he said, if we add that 124, we're at $224,000 in contingency,
Yeah,
which will recoup.
if we're doing it to actually play with the expenditures and to bring it up to that number, and if the intent is to put it back into fund balance, to replenish what we're taking out of it this year, then, on paper, it's a good transaction and it can be helpful to us.
Yeah, I
But-
think it's
But
strategic.
and that's why I brought the comment up. I see that, we're under our expenditure restraint by an amount of 124,000. My gut is to reduce the fund balance to lower our levy, for this year. But if we are true to our principle and if we actually do use those dollars that are gonna go into contingency increasingly to replenish the fund balance the following year, then it's obviously beneficial to the expenditure restraint program.
Yeah.
And it's also reducing taxes for the taxpayers.
And
So,
Mr. Berg, you hit on something that I think I'd like to emphasize. I have never been a part of a budget that cut this much. And so you're right that it's an incremental change, where we're not going to accomplish all of the reducing fund balance this year. But we definitely hit into that and made a big difference there. And so I think you're right, it's going to take multiple years, and this is one step at a time.
yeah, as long as we do it.
Right, that's true.
But I have good faith in our mayor, so I'm okay.
Yeah. I'm true to my word, so.
All right, Mr. Stevens.
I want to make sure that we don't entrap ourselves to do the same thing that we did this year, and that was to not increase our tax levy.
Okay,
So if you're wanting to go 10,460 in the current year to next year, 10,560, you've only increased the taxes 1% from the general fund.
Yeah.
Are you wanting to do that low? That's exactly the same thing we did this last year, and we're griping about it.
well, I'm not griping about it, and what I'm concerned about is the borrowing that keeps increasing, that makes us limited in how much we can increase our general levy. But what does that, can you just tell us what percentage that brings us to?
1%.
29?
Oh, I'm sorry. It's a 1% increase on the general fund.
3.8.
Instead of 3.8, it's 1%.
Okay, plus we've got the debt levy, increase.
So are you working on the $300 or 300,000?
300,000.
Okay, so then that brings us to,
Overall.
29.6.
okay, 29 point, what? 6?
29.6.
Okay, so if we use 300,000 additional from fund balance,
Bringing the total to 994.
then we're at
Pretty much the same as what we did this year.
29.6. And we're at 900,000 additional levy. No,
Has to be approved by council too, but Mr. Stevens, was it the normal in the past was increased 2%? Was that the number you told me? Was that?
Well, that's what we use between our Baird modeling. The assumption is approximately a 2% increase each year.
of general or of debt?
Yes, general.
So
We-
what is the general tax levy increase this year?
That we're proposing.
It depends on where you're at. Okay, 3.8% is what is in the book. A minus 300,000 out of that brings the debt levy, the general levy, an increase of 1% instead of 3.8%.
And just a slight correction, last year we had a 0% increase to the general levy.
I'm talking about in the 26 column, the 3.8 is in,
Oh, I know, but I thought you said we're doing the exact same thing we did last year. We are in the amount that we're using a fund balance.
yes.
But in
that-
addition
that's-
to that, we're increasing 1%.
But we also have a debt levy of 1.9%.
That levy's three.
More than that.
No, wait.
I thought I was given 1.9 for the debt levy impact.
It's,
No,
no. It's
No, but-
actually an increase of 800,000,
yeah.
A percentage increase on the.
15% over last year for debt levy.
Can we use this blended tax rate
No,
impact sheet?
Alderperson Davis, you gave us a sheet a while back. It was 7.6% between the general fund and the debt levy
Yeah.
increase. The two together, we're gonna be 7.6% under that example.
But that's not how the math is. You got to take the total, you have to add the general to the debt to do the math. It's not a 50-50 split.
I didn't say it was.
So it was 7.6. We could do the math and figure out what it would be. I think that's what you're asking, right?
If we're subtracting on the general fund levy, and it's going from a 3.8 down to what, 1%? 1%. Right?
Yes.
The 1%, that still doesn't take into account the impact on the overall. The overall levy for a person paying taxes is gonna be, between the debt service and the general fund, is gonna be what increase?
I would go to the sheet that I gave you this weekend because the increase in the levy does not give you the full story of what does that impact my tax bill. This sheet does,
And it would,
because of the difference between assessed and equalized value changes.
So we're looking at assessed.
and it would be the $900,000 additional, which is the second one down, 800 and then 900,000.
So the tax bill for the property owner for the city portion would be the 3.24% shown on the sheet in this example.
3.24. That's based on 300,000 additional fund balance. And then basically increasing our contingency account by how much? By that amount?
It would be about 224-ish.
What is
Yeah.
the amount, what is the new amount being proposed?
Plus 100.
What's the total fund balance that we're planning to use then?
Approximately 995,000.
Oh, well, we're not gonna,
And it brings us to the 29.6% used.
that's if we were to actually use all of it.
Correct.
And Mark, the proposed contingency account that we're suggesting for this line item in the budget would be how much?
The 102 plus the 124 number. So 226.
10, how much was it? 10, there's 102 in it right now.
102 is the last, when we added Crossroads 3,000, we
Okay.
took 3,000 out of contingency fund, brought it down to 102,
Okay, and then we can add how much to it?
124.
Would you also add the 864 or just round it to 124?
You can add the 864.
Anybody want to make a motion to add 124, 864 to the contingency account?
I would make that motion.
I'll make that motion.
Mr. Lampy made it. You can second it. Any further discussion on that?
I think obviously we can't tie our hands, maybe, but we have to, somewhere make this known that the whole intent here is to transfer as much as possible of that 224,000 into the fund balance.
226, 864.
But that's the intent. So we need to be somewhere.
What's your comfort level if I gotta draw $100 out or what? Anything comes up, I'll let you know right away,
Yeah.
correct?
Right.
Okay. Nothing came up this year. So.
And I think that's actually, it shows evidence of the cutting, the amount of cuts that happened. The contingency is
I
there.
think I'd rather
This is a really good move.
keep the debt. So what I've got is I've got a fund balance use of 995,000. A general budget levy increase of 1%. And a debt budget increase of what?
Well, it's currently, are you talking about debt this year over debt last year? You're talking about the debt this year over the debt
We're
last
talking
year?
about Proposed levy increase on.
Oh, well,
debt.
then just use this. It's, it would be the 900,000 additional levy or 3.24%
The combined.
combined. Yep,
Yeah.
that's what we should.
So
Combined.
combined, we're talking about 4.25% increase.
I have to do the math.
But I think we need to make it clear that our intent was to take advantage of the expenditure restraint program, incentivizing us to go up toward the limit of that amount. And so we're doing it by increasing the contingency account, knowing that our intent is to replenish the fund balance, knowing that it's not going to be the fund balances that we've had in the past because of what we're doing this year.
Right.
Making our dollars are going to be more tight.
Or
It's
make
going
it,
to be otherwise transferring. This is going to be one way of transferring money into the fund balance.
That is one benefit, but I think the purpose is so that we can maximize our position under the expenditure
Yeah,
restraint
next year.
program.
Yep,
Right,
correct,
Right.
Mr. Smith.
right. So I think we did that right. As long as we follow through.
We'll follow through, Mr. Berg, yes. I think, Mr. Lampy made that motion originally.
Yep, seconded by Berg.
Okay. Oh, on the contingency? Okay, so any further discussion? Let's take a vote. Mr. Lampy, aye. I'll vote aye. Mr. Berg?
Aye.
And Mr. Smith?
Who said it was going to be a 2-hour meeting?
Somebody say that?
Somebody told me it could be 2 hours.
Well, it's our last time, so we wanted to maximize it.
Oh, that's good comedy. Whoops. I gotta be careful what I'm saying.
So there are at least 3 other things I think we have to touch.
Go for it.
We have, one of the items we haven't touched yet is the tax levy. We have the.
Say it again.
One of the items, if I look at the items we haven't hit yet, their tax levy on page 5, capital borrowing, and the fire department 2% dues for the contribution to the marshal. How many of those do we have to touch?
These first two.
All
Okay,
right, talk us through it.
If you want to, I can give you the quick answer on the last one. The fire department 2% dues is not something that will impact the budget, in that the Fund 24 budget revenue and expenses are both equal to $100,000. So what is getting spent is what is coming in for that year. You just have to give the fire chief the permission through approval to say yes to spending up to the additional 2 months to get the hiring anywhere before March 1st.
okay, I would like to make that motion. I'm gonna work from the bottom of the sheet if I can.
Okay, we've got a motion on the table. Do you want to just phrase it up a little more clearly?
We're giving permission to the fire chief to make the hire earlier than originally stated in January 1st.
Okay, I'll second that. Any further discussion? She's using her 2% dues money to do that.
Yeah. We've already discussed that
Yep,
issue.
we're good to go, I think.
We've already approved that.
All right, so if there's no other discussion, I'll take a vote. Mr. Lampy? I'll vote aye. Mr. Berg?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
All right.
You had 2 more, Mr. Lampy?
Next,
you
I think
wanna
we're going
know?
to page 5.
You want to know what this is? It's going to be 5.7 instead of 7.6.
I've got 0149 99 16. We need an adjusted number
we
for
need
that
it.
one, right, Mark?
We just had that right here.
Mhm.
It's just a different way to look at it.
That's at 1% now, I think, right?
That's
I'm
what
just
I'm
waiting for the number.
I'm interested in the mill rate.
We're waiting for, gotcha.
Yeah.
What should the number be for that entry?
Okay, sorry, I was talking,
Oh,
so.
I'm still waiting for Mark.
By 300,000.
All right, so to double check, my motion is to reduce 01499916, to reduce that by 300,000 down to 10,560,000.
Oh. Page 5 of our budget?
5, this is back to Fund 1. This is basically locking in the taxes levied.
Yeah, right here, okay.
I will second that. So instead of 10,860,000, it's 10,560,000, a reduction of 300,000. An increase of just 1%.
Right. Yeah.
Any further discussion on that?
No.
All right, Mr. Lampy,
Aye.
I'll vote aye. Mr. Berg, Mr. Smith? All right,
Then 58 is the last number I think we have to touch. Page 58. That's capital borrowing amount, which is listed on 5/48/2020. So it's basically under reserve revenue where it says borrowing general. And this is the final amount that we're putting in, which would, my motion here, I believe, is reducing it from the mayor's number of 5.9 million down to 5 million, a reduction of 900K.
To the penny, I believe.
I'll second that.
I don't have page 58 for some reason.
Page are we on here?
We're on page 58. It's the first page of the Fund 5 capital projects budget.
I thought that was, okay.
And originally the mayor had 5.9 in there. And we are instead going with that $5 million number. Which is a lot of money.
Yeah. So we're looking at 5 million versus 596, okay.
That's correct.
That locks in our target for tonight.
Yeah.
That's the last.
First and a second, any further discussion about that?
No.
All right, let's vote. Mr. Lampy. I'll vote aye. Mr. Berg, Mr. Smith. Okay. Now what? We have to vote on the whole thing, or do we have loose ends still?
I don't have anything outside of submission to council.
Okay, well then we'll move on to letter G, review and take possible action, approve the 2026 budget for adoption by council.
Move that we approve the budget as revised, tonight.
Okay, Mr. Berg's making a motion to approve the 2026 budget
As revised.
as revised. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, any further discussion?
I'm gonna vote in favor of this, but I anticipate probably making motion with the full council
Okay,
when we meet for the public hearing.
all right, let's take a vote. Mr. Berg
Aye.
and Mr. Lampy, and I'll vote aye. All right, I'd look for a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Aye.
Adjourn?
Yep, aye. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All right, thanks, everybody.
Thank you.